Welcome to the first section of this course, where we are going to install Cocos2d-x and set up the development environment. To give ourselves a head start, we'll first be setting up our Android environment. Then we'll take a look at installing Cocos2d-x and using the Cocos command. Next, we will build our project using Xcode as well as Eclipse. Finally, we'll be implementing multi-resolution support and preparing our original game. Let's get rolling with our first task in this section, installing Cocos2d-x. In this video, we'll first set up our Android environment. We'll then install Cocos2d-x. We begin by setting up our Android environment. For that, we need to download some files. So let's go to Google Chrome and download Eclipse ADT. Here's the link from where you can download Eclipse ADT. You can see that the zip file is now getting downloaded. It will take some time as the file has a size of 306 megabytes. Now our Eclipse ADT bundle has successfully downloaded. Let's go to Downloads folder. Here's our ADT bundle. This is the Android development tool that is used to develop Android applications. Android Studio is an Android development IDE, but it is not supported to build NDK. So now, we'll download the second file, which is Android NDK. Let's go to Google Chrome. Here's the link to download NDK file. We can see that the Android NDK file is getting downloaded. So now, our NDK file has been downloaded. Let's go to Downloads folder. Here's the NDK file. It is required to build an Android application. You have to use NDK R10C version. Now we'll be downloading the third file, which is Apache Ant. Here's the link for downloading Apache Ant. We need to download Apache Ant 1.9.7 bin.zip file. Click on this link here. It may take some time to download the file. You can see that the zip file is now getting downloaded. Our Apache Ant file has been successfully downloaded. Awesome! Let's check it. The zip file Apache Ant 1.9.7 has been downloaded. This is a Java library that aids in building software. The next step. Let's now install Eclipse ADT with the Android SDK. Here is our Android ADT bundle. We need to place this in Documents folder. Let's copy it, and let's create a folder in Documents and name it as Android_SDK_root. So now our folder has been created here. Click on it and place the file. Now that the ADT bundle has been placed, you need to unzip it. Go to Documents folder. As you can see, the file has been unzipped now. We'll need to update Android SDK. For that, you need to open this folder, go to Eclipse folder, and then open Eclipse. As you can see, Eclipse is getting launched now. Here's the Eclipse launcher. We need to go to Window and then Android SDK Manager. After opening Android SDK Manager, check Tools and the latest Android SDK. It is 5.0.1 and API 21. Check this box. We also need to check Android 2.3.3 API 10. We don't need these files. Now we need to click on Install Packages. After that, we need to select each license and click on Accept. All the licenses should be accepted. After you accept all the licenses, you can see that the Install button is now enabled. Click on it. Now, you'll have to wait for a long time to update and install the SDKs. As you can see, the Android SDK is slowly getting installed. Now let's install NDK. For that, we'll open the terminal window and change the directory to the path from which we've downloaded the package. Here's our NDK zip file. Let's go to the terminal and type a command. cd documents. We've changed the path to Documents folder as we've placed NDK in Documents. Execute this command now. chmod 700 android ndk r10c darwin x86 _ 64.bin and then /android ndk r10c darwin x86 _ 64.bin and then press enter. It will take some time for the packages to get executed. Now everything is okay. We've executed our package. Great! As we had placed NDK folder to Documents, we need to create a folder for it. I've already created it and placed our NDK files over here. You must remember the folder's name, which is ndk _ root. Now I'll be installing Apache Ant. Let's go to Downloads. Here's our Apache Ant 1.9.7. We'll copy this and place it in Documents folder. Before doing that, we need to create a folder called ant _ root. I've already done that. Open it. Here, I've copy and pasted the zip file and unzipped it. Moving on. Now we need to install Java. For that, go to the terminal. By entering this command in the terminal, you can automatically install Java. Let's type java-version. As you can see, Java version 1.7.0 _ 79 has been successfully installed. Great! The next, installation. Cocos2d-x. Here's the link from where you can download Cocos2d. We'll be downloading version 3.11. It's now getting downloaded. It's successfully downloaded now. Here's your file. You need to now place it in your home directory, whose name is biz. We'll place it in Users Packed Video. I've already created a folder called Cocos _ root and placed the file and then unzipped it. Now to set up Cocos2d-x, open the terminal. You'll have to enter the path where your file is placed. Here's the path. Now we'll run setup.py using /setup.py. I'll skip giving the path of ndk _ root and android _ SDK _ root. After the execution of setup.py command, you need to execute the bash profile to add the system variables. Let's type source /bash _ profile and then enter. Open the bash profile file and you will find that setup.py shows how to set up each path in your system. You can view the bash profile file using the cat command. cat /bash _ profile. Let's now verify whether Cocos2d-x can be installed. Type Cocos. We've now successfully installed Cocos2d-x. Excellent! That ends this video. We've now set up Android environment and then installed Cocos2d-x. In the next video, we'll look at how to use the Cocos command. See you next time! In the previous video, we set up our basic environment. This is the second video using the Cocos command. In this video, we'll generate our project and compile it using Cocos command. We can use the Cocos command help by executing it with the help parameter. Let's type Cocos-help. We then move on to generating our new project. First, we create a new Cocos2d-x project with the Cocos new command. We'll type Cocos new, the name of the project is My Game, -p. -p stands for the package name for Android. After that, we'll specify the name of our home directory. jp. Our home directory was named as biz, so it'll be jp.biz.mygame, the project name. -l. -l is the programming language used in the project. It will be CPP because we're using C++. And then -d. It provides the location where we'll be generating our new project. We'll be generating it in the user's home directory. So I want my project to be in biz, users, packed video, cocos_root. I want it in this folder, and I'll specify this path. There should be space between -d and the project folder path. Your new project is now getting generated. It has been generated now. Great! Let's compile the project now. You want to build and run for iOS, so let's type this command. Cocos run -s. -s is the directory of the project. This could be an absolute path or a relative path. So let's go to the home directory. Look here, our project has been generated here. So I'll need to provide this path. For that, open the terminal, give space after -s, and drag the folder into the terminal. It will automatically generate the path of your project's directory. After that, you type -p. -p denotes which platform to run on. If you want to run on Android, you use -p Android. The available options are iOS, Android, Win32, Mac, and Linux. Let's type -p iOS and press Enter. Our project is now getting compiled. Build finally succeeded. Great! Now you can build and run iOS applications on Cocos2d-x. However, you have to wait for a long time if this is your first time building an iOS application. It takes a long time to build a Cocos2d-x library. Excellent! The library has been built now. In this video, we saw how to use the Cocos command to generate a new project and then compile it. In the next one, we'll build the project using Xcode and Eclipse. In the last video, we learned how to use Cocos command. This is the next video, building the project. We'll first build our project using Xcode and then with Eclipse. Before building the project using Xcode, you require Xcode with an iOS developer account to test it on a physical device. However, you can also test it on an iOS simulator. If you did not install Xcode, you can get it from the Mac App Store. I've already installed it here. Now let's open our project. Click on File and then Open. Let's go to the home directory where our project has been placed. Here's our project, My Game. Open this folder and click on proj.ios_Mac. You can see your project here. Open it. And that's it. We're done. So this is how your project looks when you open it in Xcode. We'll now be building our project using Eclipse. For that, let's open the Eclipse launcher. Go to Documents, Android SDK, and click on Eclipse. Here's our launcher. Now click on Eclipse and select Preferences. We need to set up ndk_root. Open C++, Build, and then Environment. Click on Add to set the new variable, whose name will be ndk_root, and the value is the ndk_root path. So, this is the folder where ndk_root has been placed. Add /android ndk r10c and click OK. Your environment variable has been set. Great! We'll now be importing our project into Eclipse. Open the file and click on Import. Go to Android and then click on Existing Android Code into Workspace. Then click on Next. Here you have to provide the root directory of where your file has been placed. So, browse it. Go to your home directory, then Users, then your folder. This is your project, My Game. And then click on proj.android. Open this file. After that, click on Finish. Awesome! Our project has been imported now. Now we have to import the Cocos2d-x library into Eclipse. Let's go to File, Import, Android, Existing Android Code into Workspace. Then click on Next. Let's browse now. Go to your home directory, then Users, then your folder, Cocos2d, My Game. In My Game, select Cocos2d and click on Open, and then Finish. If you added CPP files into your project, you have to modify the android.mk file. Let's go to our home directory. This is the folder where our project has been placed. Go to Users, Packed Video, Cocos_root, Cocos2d-x 3.11. Then My Game, proj.android, and then JNI. Here's our android.mk file. You need to edit this file to make some changes. Open Text Edit. Here's our local src files, hello cpp/main.cpp. Now we need to add title scene.cpp. For that, type /classes/title scene.cpp and close the file. Now, you get lots of errors when importing your project into Eclipse, but don't panic. After importing the Cocos2d-x library, these errors soon disappear. This allows us to set the path of the NDK, and Eclipse could compile C++. After you have modified these C++ codes, run your project in Eclipse. Eclipse automatically compiles C++ codes, Java codes, and then runs. Go to the folder where android.mk file has been placed. Go to My Game, proj.android, JNI. Now edit android.mk. It is a tedious job to fix android.mk again to add the C++ files. So, we'll customize android.mk so that it can add C++ files automatically. We'll type cpp_files: $shell find $local path /classes name *cpp. We need to delete all of this and add local_src_files plus equals $cpp_files $local path %% Now we need to modify local_c_includes. Let's remove this and add shell find $local path /classes -type D. The first line of the code gets C++ files to the classes directory into the cpp_files variable. The second and third lines add C++ files to the local_c_files _includes variable. By doing so, C++ files will be automatically compiled in the NDK. If you need to compile a file other than the extension .cpp file, you'll need to add it manually. We have now modified android.mk file. Awesome! We've built our project in both Xcode and Eclipse. In the next video, we'll see how to prepare our game. Previously, we saw how to build our project in both Xcode and Eclipse. Let's now look at preparing our original game. In this video, we'll first implement multi-resolution support and then prepare our game. Let's open Xcode and open appdelegate.cpp. Now we'll be modifying the appdelegate: application did-finish launching method. We're going to add some code after director set animation interval. Let's add glView set design resolution size and set the resolution size to 640, 960, resolution policy, no, _border. After this, we need to click on Run so that our file gets built. Awesome! This is how it looks. We can see our Hello World. Let's now prepare our game. Open Xcode. We're going to modify Hello World Scene.cpp and Hello World Scene.h. There are a lot of comments and lines of code in these two files. Let's remove this unnecessary code from the template project and get started with the original game right away. Open Hello World Scene.h and remove menu close callback method and the unnecessary comments. Now open Hello World Scene.cpp to do the same thing. Remove #include simple audio engine.h. Next, remove unnecessary images from the resources folder. We're going to remove these three files. Let's go to our home directory and remove these .png files. Close Normal, close Selected, and Hello World. Finally, if you are developing only iOS and Android applications, you don't need other platforms such as Linux, Windows, and Windows Phone. So let's remove Linux, Universal, Windows 10, and 32. Awesome! We have now successfully prepared our game. That brings us to the end of the first section. We installed Cocos2d-x, then learned how to use Cocos command. We then built the project in Xcode as well as Eclipse. Finally, we implemented multi-resolution support and prepared our game. In the next section, we can start coding within this simple project. See you next time! Hello and welcome back to Section 2, Creating Sprites. In the previous section, we installed Cocos2d-x and set up our game environment. We'll start coding in it in this section. We'll look at sprite basics, then we'll manipulate these sprites to perform basic actions. We'll then gradually learn how to create complex actions. We'll also optimize and then enhance the functionality of our game. In the end, we'll learn how to draw shapes. Let's get this section rolling with the first task on hand, Introduction to Sprites. In this video, we'll learn how to create sprites and then how to get their position and size. Sprites are the most important things in games. They are images that are displayed on the screen. Let's learn how to create a sprite and display it. We first need to add our image into our project. So let's go to our project. For that, open Home Directory. Here's my game. Click on Resources and then Res folder. Here's our image. Now we can open our project in Xcode. Then go to Product and click on Clean. You have to clean and build when you add new images into the resource folder. If you did not clean after adding new images, then Xcode will not recognize them. Finally, After you add the run_01 image to your project, go to My Game Resources and then Res folder. This is how the image looks. Let's modify our code. Go to Classes and then click on Hello World Scene.cpp. Here's our Hello World init method. We need to add some code here after the if statement. We need to build and run the project now. So this is how our project looks after getting built. Excellent! Now, there is a certain size and position of the sprite. Let's see how to view the size and position of the sprite. To get the sprite position, you can use this code. By default, the sprite position is 0, 0. You can change the sprite position using the setPosition method and get it using the getPosition method. And to get the sprite size, you can use this code. Now you can get the sprite size using the getContentSize method. But you cannot change the sprite size by the setContentSize method. Content size is a constant value. If you want to change the sprite size, you have to change the scale of the sprite. You will learn about the scale in the next video. Awesome! In this video, we have created a sprite and learned how to get its position and size. In the next video, we'll manipulate various properties of these sprites. Previously, we learned the basics of sprites. This is video 2.2, Manipulating Sprites. In this video, we'll learn how to manipulate our sprite's various properties. A sprite is a 2D image that can be animated or transformed by changing its properties, including its rotation, position, scale, color, and so on. After creating a sprite, you can obtain access to the variety of properties it has, which can be manipulated. Let's look at the first step, rotation. You can change the sprite's rotation to positive or negative degrees. Type sprite set rotation and give a value of 30.0f. The positive value rotates it clockwise, and the negative value rotates it counterclockwise, and the default value is 0. Let's build and run now. Awesome! As you can see, our sprite has been rotated 30 degrees in the clockwise direction. The next step, changing the scale. We can change the sprite scale where the default value is 1.0f, the original size. We can also change the width and height separately. For now, let's scale to half the width only. Type sprite set scale x, open bracket, 0.5f, close bracket. So run it. OK. This is how our sprite looks now. Let's scale the sprite to half the height. Now, replace x by y here and add 0.5f. Build and run now. So our sprite has been scaled to half of its height now. Let's scale the width to double and height to half. Type sprite set scale. Then the values of 2.0f, 0.5f. Build successful. This is how our sprite looks now. Next up, manipulating skew. We can change the sprite skew either by x, y, or uniformly for both x and y. The default value is 0 for both x and y. Let's adjust the x skew by 20.0. Type sprite set skew x, open bracket, 20.0f, close bracket. Now, when we build the code, our sprite transforms again. Let's see what happens when we adjust the y skew by 20.0. Change this to y and then add the value. Build successful. Great. There's a slight change in the skew. Now the next task, changing color. We can change the sprite's color by passing in a Color3b object. Color3b has an RGB value. Type sprite set color, Color3b 255.0.0. Run this code. Our sprite has now changed its color. Great! Let's look at opacity. The opacity property is set between a value from 0 to 255. Let's type sprite set opacity, open bracket, 100, close bracket. The sprite is fully opaque when it is set to 255 and fully transparent when it is set to 0. The default value is always 255. Run and build this now. As you can see, our sprite has become a little transparent. The next task, visibility. You can change the sprite's visibility by passing in a Boolean value. If it is true, then the sprite is visible. The default value is always true. Type sprite set visible false. A little pro tip. If you want to check the sprite's visibility, use the isVisible method rather than the getVisible method. The sprite class does not have getVisible. Okay, let's run this code now. Since we have entered false, our sprite is invisible. If we now change it to true, build successful. Okay, great. It's visible now. That brings us to the end of this video. Excellent. Now we've learned how to customize the working of the sprite. In the next video, we'll bring our game to life. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. In the previous video, we saw how to manipulate our sprite to perform basic actions. This is video 2.3, bringing our game to life. In this video, we'll learn how to animate our sprite and then make it perform various actions. Let's see how we can animate our sprite. When the characters in the game start to move, the game will come alive. There are many ways to make animated characters. In this video, we will animate a character by using multiple images. Let's go to our home directory and have a look at our images. Go to our project, resources, then res folder. These are the images that we'll use to animate. Open Xcode. I'll add the code here for our animation. Now you can create an animation using the animation class and the animate class. They change multiple images at regular intervals. The names of these image files have a serial order, and we have added the file name to the animation class in the for loop. We can create the formatted string using the stringutils class in Cocos2d-x. We will add the file name into the animation instance using the addSpriteFrameWithFile method. It sets the units of time which the frame takes using setDelayPerUnit method. It is set to restore the original frame when the animation finishes using the setRestoreOriginalFrame method. It is then set to the number of times the animation is going to loop. Then we create the animate instance by passing it with the animation instance that you created earlier. Finally, we call the runAction method by passing in the animate instance. If you want to run the animation forever, set -1 in the setLoops method. Please note that you cannot control each animation frame using this code. In such cases, you can use the animation frame class. Let's run this code now. As you can see, our sprite is being animated now. Great! We'll create actions for our sprite now. Cocos2d-x has a lot of actions. For example, move, jump, rotate, and so on. We often use these actions in our games. This is similar to an animation. When the characters in a game start their action, the game will come alive. Let's set these things in action. To move a sprite by a specified point over 2 seconds, let's add this code. Please note that we have used move by here. Okay, let's run and build it. Our sprite is moved now. Great! Here we moved our sprite by a specified point. Now let's move our sprite to a specified point over 2 seconds. For that, all you have to do is replace this by 2. Let's see this in action. I'm sure you can see the difference in how both of these commands work. Now let's see how to scale our sprite. To uniformly scale it by 3 times over 2 seconds, we'll use scale by. Okay, build it. We can see how our sprite is scaled. Now, if you want to scale the x-axis by 5 times and the y-axis by 3 times over 2 seconds, you can use the command as shown. Here's our output. To uniformly scale a sprite to 3 times over 2 seconds, use scale to. Let's run it. Nice! Now to scale x-axis to 5 times and y-axis to 3 times over 2 seconds, we'll change the scale to like so. Here's how the output changes. Isn't it great? Let's make our sprite jump. To make it jump by a specified point 3 times over 2 seconds, we'll use jump by as shown. When we run it, we can see that our sprite is jumping properly. Here, we made our sprite jump by a specified point. Now, in order to make it jump to a specified point 3 times over 2 seconds, just like before, we're replacing by 2. We can see the difference when we run this code. Great! The next action, rotation. To rotate a sprite clockwise by 40 degrees over 2 seconds, we use rotate by. This is our rotated sprite. Now, if you want to rotate it counterclockwise, just type -40.0f instead of 40.0f. Let's do that now. It is now rotated clockwise. Nice! Let's see how to make our sprite blink. Let's make it blink 5 times in 2 seconds. Here's how we use blink. We can see our sprite blinking. Cool! Next up, fading the sprite. We'll use fade in to fade in the sprite in 2 seconds. Let's see how this works. Okay, in order to fade out, we'll use fade out. Here's how our sprite fades out. The next action is skew. Let's see how to skew a sprite's x-axis by 45 degrees and y-axis by 30 degrees over 2 seconds. We are going to use skew by for this. This is how our sprite is getting skewed. Now, if we want to skew a sprite's x-axis to 45 degrees and y-axis to 30 degrees over 2 seconds, we'll replace by 2. Here's how it transforms. Great, isn't it? Let's tint our sprite by the specified RGB values. Class used, tint by. Build successful, and our sprite gets tinted. It's that easy. To tint a sprite to a specified RGB value, use Tint to like so. Excellent. Action objects make a sprite perform a change to its properties. Move to, move by, scale to, scale by, and others are all action objects. You will have noticed that each action has a by and to suffix. That's why they have different behaviors. The method with the by suffix is relative to the current state of the sprites. The method with the to suffix is absolute to the current state of sprites. That's it for this video. We brought our sprite to life. Exciting stuff, isn't it? In the next video, we'll see how to control these actions. This is video 2.4, Controlling Actions. In the previous video, we learned some of the basic actions. However, you may want to use more complex actions. For example, rotating a character while moving or moving a character after jumping. In this video, you will learn how to control complex actions. The first step, sequencing actions. Sequence is a series of actions to be executed sequentially. This can be any number of actions. Let me add a code here. Okay, so what does this code do? It will execute the following actions sequentially. Move the sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds. Then, rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. Let's see how things work now. Awesome! Also, you need to specify null pointer last. If you did not specify null pointer, your game will crash. Let's look at spawning actions. Spawn is very similar to sequence, except that all actions will run at the same time. You can specify any number of actions at the same time. Let's see how it works. Let me paste the code. So, it will execute these actions at the same time. Move the sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds, and rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. It takes a total of 2 seconds to execute them. Let's move on to repeating actions. The repeat object is used to repeat an action the number of specified times. As you can see, our code executes a rotate action 5 times. Now, if you want to repeat forever, you can use the repeat forever action. Let's remove this value and see how it works. We can see that the sprite will go on rotating forever. Now the next step, reversing actions. If you generate an action instance, you can call a reverse method to run it in the reverse action. Let's add this code. So this code will execute these actions sequentially. Move the sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds. It will also move it 100px to the left over 2 seconds. Great! In addition to this, if you generate a sequence action, you can call a reverse method to run it in the opposite order. So let's add another set of code. Here's how it works. Move a sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds. Rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. Then, rotate it counterclockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. Also, move it 100px to the left over 2 seconds. These are our sequence of actions. Excellent! The next task is up our sleeve, delay time. Delay time is a delayed action within the specified number of seconds. Let me paste this code here. Okay, how does this code work? It will execute these actions sequentially. Move our sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds. Then delay the next action by 2 seconds. And then, rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. When we run this code, we can see it takes a total of 6 seconds to execute it. The benefit of the delay time action is that you can put it in the sequence action. Combining delay time and sequence is a very powerful feature. Spawn produces the same results as running multiple consecutive run action statements. However, the benefit of spawn is that you can put it in the sequence action. Combining spawn and sequence is a very powerful feature. Let's see it in action. The actions executed are: move the sprite by 100px over 2 seconds. Rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. Then fade out over 2 seconds. Spawn the rotate and fade out actions. Then fade in. All these actions are performed in sequence. Great, isn't it? So, we have learned how to create complex actions in this video. In the next video, we'll look at mastering these actions by learning more advanced concepts. In the last video, we saw how to create complex actions. This is video 2.5, Mastering Actions. In this video, you will learn how to use a function with actions and easing actions. You may want to call a function by triggering some actions. For example, you are controlling the sequence action jump and move, and you want to use a sound for the jumping action. In this case, you can call a function by triggering this jump action. Let's look at how to call functions with actions. Cocos2d-x has the call func object that allows you to create a function and pass it to be run in your sequence. This allows you to add your own functionality to your sequence action. Let's add the code for that. Now, what this does is, move the sprite 100px to the right over 2 seconds. Then, rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees over 2 seconds. After that, execute cclog. The call func action is usually used as a callback function. For example, if you want to perform a different process after finishing the move action. Using call func, you can call the method at any time. You can use a lambda expression as a callback function. The instance of this parameter is the sprite that is running the action. You can get the sprite instance by casting to sprite class. Then, you can also specify a callback method. Call func has cc_callback_o macro as an argument. cc_callback_o is a macro for calling a method without parameters. You can call a method using this code. If you want to call a method with one parameter, you need to use the callfuncN action and cc_callback_1 macro. cc_callback_1 is a macro for calling a method with one argument. A parameter of a method that is called by callfuncN is the ref class. To call a method with an argument, you can use the following code. To combine the callfuncN and the reverse action, we'll add this code. This code will execute these actions sequentially over 2 seconds. Move the sprite 100px to the right. Rotate it clockwise by 360 degrees. And then move it 100px to the left. Awesome! Let's now look at easing actions. Easing is animating with a specified acceleration to make the animations look smooth. Ease actions are a good way to fake physics in your game. Your game looks more natural with smoother animations. Okay, let me paste the code here. Here, I am moving our sprite object from 200-200 to 500-200 with acceleration and deceleration. Run it now. This is how our output looks. Nice! Next, let's drop a sprite object from the top of the screen and make it bounce. I'm adding another code here. Let's run this. Build successful. Our sprite is working splendidly. The animation's duration time is the same time regardless of whether you use easing. Ease in, ease out, and ease in out have 2 parameters. The first parameter is the action by easing. The second parameter is rate of easing. If you specified this parameter to 1.0f, the easing action is the same without easing. Anything over 1.0f means easing is fast. Under 1.0f, and easing will be slow. This list here shows typical easing types. Excellent! We saw how to use methods with actions and how to ease actions. In the next video, we'll see how to optimize the functionality of our game. In the previous video, we dived deep into the world of actions. Let's start optimizing the working of our game. In this video, we'll learn using a texture atlas and then the batch node. Let's learn how to use a texture atlas. The texture atlas is a large image containing a collection of each sprite. We often use a texture atlas rather than individual images. Let's get started. For that, we have to add the texture atlas files into our project and then clean the project. Let's open our project in the home directory. Open Resources, then Res. I've placed 2 files, running.png and running.plist. Now let's try to read the texture atlas file and make a sprite from it. Here's the code. A texture atlas is a large image containing a collection of images. It is composed of a plist file and a texture file. You can create a texture atlas by using tools. You will learn how to make a texture atlas using tools in Section 10. Okay, let's run this code. Excellent! Now, a plist file is defined as the original file name of the image and is located within the texture file. It also defines the image that will be used for the texture atlas. The plist file for the texture atlas is in an XML format. Why would we use the texture atlas? Because using the memory efficiently is good. Double the memory size as required when the computer loads the image into the memory. For example, there are 10 images that are 100 by 100 size. We will use 9 images, but one image requires memories for 128 by 128 size. On the other hand, Texture Atlas is one image containing a collection of 9 images where the image size is 1000 by 1000. It requires a memory size of 1024 by 1024. This is how Texture Atlas is used to save wasting unnecessary memory usage. Let's learn how to use a batch node now. Renderer speed will be slow if there are a lot of sprites on the screen. However, a shooting game needs a lot of images, such as bullets and so on. In this time, if renderer speed is slow, the game earns a bad review. Now we will learn how to control a lot of sprites. Let's try to display a lot of sprites using Sprite Batch Node. The Sprite Batch Node instance can be used to do the following. Generate a Sprite Batch Node instance using a texture. Add the instance on the layer. Generate sprites using the texture in the Sprite Batch Node instance. Add these sprites on the Sprite Batch Node instance. Sprite Batch Node can reference only one texture, one image file, or one texture atlas. Only the sprites that are contained in that texture can be added to the Sprite Batch Node. All sprites added to a Sprite Batch Node are drawn in one OpenGL-ES draw call. If the sprites are not added to a Sprite Batch Node, then an OpenGL-ES draw call will be needed for each one, which is less efficient. Okay, let's run this code. Great! Here, you can see 3 lines of information for Cocos2d-x on the left bottom corner. The top line is the number of polygon vertices. The middle line is the number of OpenGL-ES draw call. You understand that a lot of sprites are drawn by one OpenGL-ES draw call. The bottom line is FPS and seconds per frame. Since Cocos2d-x version 3, the auto batch function of draw calls has been added. Cocos2d-x can draw a lot of sprites with one OpenGL-ES draw call without Sprite Batch Node. However, it has the following conditions. There should be same texture and same blend func. Excellent! That's all for this video. We saw how to optimize the working of our game. In the next one, we'll see how to enhance it. See you next time! In the last video, we saw how to optimize our game. Let's now enhance its functionality. We'll go over 3D models and then look at detecting collisions. Cocos2d-x version 3 supports an exciting new function called 3D models. We can use and display 3D models in Cocos2d-x. In this recipe, you will learn how to use 3D models. So this is our home directory where our project resides. Let's open Cocos2d, Tests, CPP Tests, Resources, and then Sprite 3D Test. We'll copy 2 files from this folder, body.png and girl.c3b, and paste them in our project's directory. My Game, Resources, and then Res. As you can see, I've already placed these files here. Okay, let's open Xcode now. Let's try to display a 3D model and move it. You can create the 3D sprite from a 3D model in the same way we made a 2D sprite and displayed it. The placement method and the action method is exactly the same as seen in a 2D sprite. You can create the animation 3D instance from the animation data that is defined in the 3D model. Let's see how it works. Great! Our 3D model is moving. Finally, you will try to move the 3D sprite to the left or right. Let me add the code here and run it. You will notice that 3D sprites differ in appearance depending on their position on the screen. Awesome! Let's learn how to detect collisions. In an action game, a very important technique is to detect collisions between each sprite. However, it is pretty complicated to detect collisions between rect and rect or rect and point. Let's see how to detect collisions easily. There are two ways to detect collisions. The first method checks whether a point is contained within the rectangle of the sprite. Firstly, you get the sprite's rect using the getBoundingBox method. Using the contains point method by specifying the coordinate, it is possible to detect whether it contains the rectangle. If it contains it, the method returns true. The second method checks whether two sprites' rectangles have overlapped. Now, using intersectsRect method by specifying another rectangle, it is possible to detect whether they overlap. If they overlap, the method returns true. The rect class has more methods including getMinX, getMidX, getMaxX, getMinY, getMidY, getMaxY, and union with rect. You can obtain the value in this figure using each of these methods. Great! We learned to enhance our game using 3D models and detecting collisions. In the next video, you will learn how to draw shapes without textures. Previously, we saw how to enhance our game's functionality. In this video, you will learn how to draw shapes without textures. Drawing a shape in Cocos2d-x can be easy using the drawNode class. If you can draw various shapes using drawNode, you will need to prepare textures for such shapes. Let's get rolling. I'm pasting the code now. Firstly, you made a drawNode instance. You got a window size as well. Then, we can draw a dot by specifying the point, the radius, and the color like so. Let's run this code. This is our dot. I had added the radius and white color to our code. Let's see how we can draw lines. We can do that by specifying the starting point, the destination point, and the color. Let's add our code. A 1px thick line will be drawn when you use the drawLine method. If you want to draw thicker lines, use the drawSegment method with a given radius. Here I've specified white color, and you can add any color of your choice. Here's the line size. Let's run this code. These are how our lines look. Great! Let's draw circles now. I'm adding the code for it. Please note that you have to specify these arguments: center position, radius, angle, segments, draw a line to center or not, scale x-axis, scale y-axis, color. Segment is the number of vertices of the polygon. As you know, the circle is a polygon that has a lot of vertices. Increasing the number of vertices is close to a smooth circle, but the process load goes up. Incidentally, you should use drawSolidCircle method if you want to get a solid circle. We'll run this now. These are our circles. Awesome! The next step, drawing a triangle. You can draw a triangle by specifying 3 vertices and the color. Let's see it in action. Build successful. Here's the triangle. Next, drawing rectangles. You can draw rectangles by specifying the left bottom point, the right top point, and the color. Adding another code. Now you can also draw fill color if you use the drawSolidRect method. Here's our rectangle. Next up, drawing a polygon. Let me add the relevant code here. Okay, so you can draw a polygon with the given vertices, the number of vertices, filling color, borders width, and borders color. Run the code. Here's our polygon. Great! Let's see how to draw a Bezier curve. Let's paste the code for it. Using Draw Quad Bezier method, you can draw a quadratic Bezier curve, and Draw Cubic Bezier is used to draw a cubic Bezier curve. The third argument of Draw Quad Bezier and the fourth argument of Draw Cubic Bezier is the number of vertices in the same way as the circle. Execute the code. Great! Well, Draw Node is like a mechanism that enables Cocos2d-x to process at high speed by making drawing shapes all at once and not separately or one by one. When you draw multiple shapes, you should use one Draw Node instance instead of multiple Draw Node instances, and then add multiple shapes in it. Also, Draw Node does not have the concept of depth. Cocos2d-x will draw to the order of the added shapes in Draw Node. Awesome! That brings us to the end of Section 2. We learned a lot of things. We started our journey from the basics of sprites to working on them to make our game come to life. We learned how to make our sprites perform basic actions and then increase the complexity of these actions. We also learned how to optimize the working of our game and enhanced its functionality. Finally, we learned how to draw shapes without textures. In the next section, we'll work with labels. Welcome to Section 3, Working with Labels. We worked with sprites in the previous section. In this section, we're going to create labels. To display labels on the screen, we can use the Label class with system fonts, true type fonts, and bitmap fonts. In this section, we'll cover all this and then learn to create rich text. The first topic that we are going to cover is creating system font labels. Specifically, we'll be looking at creating a single line label, adding a line break, then aligning our text, and then finally, setting a timer. Let's get started. Now, system fonts are the fonts already installed on your devices. Since they are already installed, there is no need to go through the installation process. Here's how to create a label by specifying a system font. We can create a single line label by writing this code. You should use the Label class to display strings by specifying a string, a system font, and the font size. The Label class will display a string that is converted into an image. After creating a label instance, you can use it in the same way as you would use a sprite. Because a label is also a node, we can use properties such as actions, scaling, and opacity to manipulate the labels. Let's now see the output. Nice, isn't it? Next up, line break. You can add a new line at any position by putting a line feed code into a string. Let me add hello\n to this and run. As you can see, a new line has been started. Great! We are now going to see how to align our text. You can specify the text alignment in both the horizontal and the vertical directions. Here's a list of how we can specify the alignment. Now I'm going to align our text horizontally to the center. When I run it, you can see that it's been aligned as we wanted. If I want it left aligned, I'll change this to left. Here's our output. Changing it to right will change our output like so. Now I'm going to align this text vertically to the top. Here's how the output changes. Cool! We can also update the string after creating the label. If you want to update the string once every second, you can do so by setting a timer. We'll first edit hello world scene.h like so. Private int sec. Here, I have defined an integer variable in the header file. Next, we'll edit hello world scene.cpp. Let me add the code. Here you need to create a label and add it on the layer. Next, you need to set the scheduler to execute the function every second. A scheduler can execute the method at a specified interval. We will explain how the scheduler works in Section 4. Keep a lookout for it for more details on the scheduler. Then you can update the string by using the setString method. Note that you can convert an int or float value to a string value by using the toString method. Okay, let's now build and run this code. Our timer has started working. Congratulations! That marks the end of the first video. We covered how to create labels using system fonts in this video. In the next one, we'll learn how to create a label with TrueType fonts. We saw how to create system font labels in the last video. Let's create a label with TrueType fonts in this one. In this video, we're going to take a look at creating a single-line label using TrueType fonts. We'll also look at creating labels using TTF config. Let's get started. TrueType fonts are fonts that you can install into your project. Cocos2d-x's project already has 2 TrueType fonts. Open the Resources folder and then click on Fonts. Here are the 2 fonts, Arial.ttf and Markerfelt.ttf. Let's create a single-line label using these TrueType fonts. I'm adding the code here. You can create a label by specifying a label string, the path to the TrueType font, and the font size. You can generate label objects of different font sizes from one TrueType font file. If you want to add a TrueType font, you need to add an original one into the Fonts folder and then use it. However, note that a TrueType font is slower than a bitmap font when it comes to rendering. Also, changing its properties such as font face and size is an expensive operation. Be careful to not update it frequently. Okay, let's run this code. Here's our label. Nice! Now, if you want to create a lot of labels that have the same properties as a TrueType font, you can create them by specifying TTF config. TTF config has properties that are required by a TrueType font. I'm adding the code, which will help you create a label using TTF config. A TTF config object allows you to set some labels that have the same properties. If you want to change the label's color, you can change its color property. For instance, by using the code like so, you can change its color to red. Let's run the code now. Awesome, isn't it? A little pro tip, you can also set effects to labels. We'll see how to do it later in the section. That's about it in this video. We have covered how to create labels using TrueType fonts. In the next video, we'll cover bitmap font labels. Previously, we created labels using TrueType fonts. In this video, we are going to take a look at bitmap font labels. Specifically, we'll create a single-line label and then see how we can change the properties of separate characters of this label. Bitmap fonts are fonts that you can install into your project. A bitmap font is essentially an image file that contains a bunch of characters and a control file that details the size and location of each character within the image. If you use bitmap fonts in your game, you can see that the bitmap fonts will be the same size on all devices. Now, we can create a bitmap font by using a tool such as Glyph Designer. We will discuss this tool in Section 10. For now, we'll use a bitmap font from our Cocos2d-x project. It is located in our home directory. Cocos root, tests, CPP tests, resources, and finally, fonts. There are two files here, future48.fnt and future48.png. To begin with, we will have to add these files to our project. Go back and click on My Game. Then click on Resources and Fonts folder. Here are the files. Moving on, let's open Xcode. In the Resources folder, you can see the two files. Let's now create a single-line label using a bitmap font. You can create a label by specifying the path to the font, a label string, and the font size. The characters in a bitmap font are made up of a matrix of dots. This font renders very fast, but it has a con. It is not scalable. That's why it has a fixed font size when generated. Note that a bitmap font requires two files, a .fnt file and a .png file. Okay, let's run this code. Here's our single-line label. Excellent. Now, did you know that each character in a label is a sprite? What does this mean? It means that each character can be rotated or scaled and has other changeable properties. Let's see this in action. I'm adding the code. As you can see, I want to rotate the letter B and scale the size of I. Let's run this code. Great! We can see that each letter's property can be changed separately. We created labels using bitmap fonts in this video. It was fun, wasn't it? In the next video, we'll create rich text. In the last video, we looked at creating labels with bitmap fonts. In this video, we'll add some effects to our labels. We'll create a drop shadow outline and then add glow effect to our label. Let's jump right in. After creating label objects, you can create some effects easily without having your own custom class. The label class can be used for applying effects, such as a drop shadow or an outline to these objects. However, note that not all label types support all effects. Okay, let's dive deeper into these effects. I'm adding the code for creating a label with a drop shadow effect. Firstly, we generate a gray layer and change the background color to gray. Otherwise, we will not be able to see the shadow effect. After that, adding the effect to the label is very easy. You need to generate a label instance and execute an effect method, in this case, enable shadow. This can be executed without any arguments. Let's see the output. Here's our shadow. Nice. Next, let's create a label with an outline effect. Here's the code. We've used a method called enableOutline. It has two arguments, outline color and outline size. Now, the outline size has a default value of -1. If it has a negative value, the outline does not show. Okay, let's run this code. Here's our outline. Great. The next effect on our list is glow. Here's how to create a label with a glow effect. Adding the code. The method that we use in this case is enableGlow. It has only one argument, which is glow color. Pretty simple, right? When we run this code, here's how our output changes. Excellent. Remember, not all label types support all effects, but they do support the drop shadow effect. The outline and glow effects are TrueType font effects only. In the previous versions, we had to create our own custom fonts class if we wanted to apply effects to labels. However, you'll be glad to know that the current version of Cocos2d-x, that is version 3, supports label effects that we just discussed. Okay, there's something more that we can do with these effects. You can also change the shadow color and the offset. I'm adding the code for it now. The first argument is the shadow color, the second is the offset, and the third one is the blur radius. Let's see the output. Cool, isn't it? It is also possible to set 2 or more of these effects at the same time. Let's do that. I've added some more code, which will enable the shadow and outline effects to the label. When I click on Run, here's how our output changes. That ends our section. We covered labels using system fonts, true type fonts, bitmap fonts, and finally, created rich text. In the next section, we'll look at building scenes and layers of our game. See you next time. Hello! Welcome back to another section of Cocos2d-x Solutions. In the last section, we saw how to create labels with various fonts and then add effects to these labels. Now in this section, we'll create scenes and layers for our game. We'll look at creating scenes, transitioning between scenes, transitioning scenes with effects, creating original transitions, creating layers. In Cocos2d-x, your game should have 1 or more scenes. Well, a scene is basically a node. In this video, we'll explore how to create and use a scene class. One screen has one scene. A scene is a container that holds our sprite, labels, and other objects. For example, a scene can be a title scene, a game scene, or an option menu scene. Okay, let's use the project we created in Section 1. Open My Game and then Classes folder. Firstly, let's duplicate HelloWorldScene.cpp and rename it to TitleScene.cpp. Next, duplicate HelloWorldScene.h and rename it to TitleScene.h. Secondly, add them to the Xcode project. When I open Xcode, I can see them here. Cool! Next, we have to change Hello World Scene to Title Scene. Then we have to replace the Search and Replace method in the Tips section. It's pretty difficult to create an original scene class from a blank file. However, a basic class of scene is patterned. So we can create it easily by duplicating and modifying the Hello World Scene class files. Remember this, while you are developing your game, you need to execute this step every time you need a new scene. Okay, click on TitleScene.h. Then click on Find and select Find and Replace. Now we are going to replace Hello World by Title Scene. Great! Let's do the same thing for TitleScene.cpp. As you can see, these are the entities that are getting replaced. Let's just cross-check that everything has been replaced and is the way we want it to be. Next, we'll add a label to denote the difference between Title Scene and Hello World Scene. We need to add it in the init method of Title Scene like so. Similarly, we need to add another label in the init method of Hello World. Finally, to display the Title Scene class, we now need to change appDelegate.cpp. The appDelegate class is the first class to be executed in Cocos2d-x. The application didFinishLaunching method is executed when the application is ready to run. This method will prepare the execution of Cocos2d-x. Then it will create the first scene and run it. Also, the createScene method is used to create a title scene, and the runWithScene method is used to run it. Okay, so I'm replacing Hello World with title scene again. Let's see the output. It works the way we wanted it to. Great! We have learned how to create scenes. In the next video, let's explore how to transition between these scenes. In the previous video, we looked at creating scenes for our game. In this video, we are going to take a look at transitioning between these scenes. We'll cover two ways of doing so, using replace scene and push scene. A game has a lot of scenes, so you might need to move between scenes in your game. Perhaps when a game is started, a title scene will be displayed. Then a game scene will appear in the next title scene. Now, there are two ways to transition to a scene. One is to use the replace scene method of director class. This method replaces a scene outright. Usually, you'll use the replace scene method when you change the scene from the title scene to the game scene. The other way is to use the push scene method of the same class. What does this method do? Well, it suspends the execution of the running scene and pushes a new scene on the stack of the suspended scene. In this case, the old scene is suspended. You can get back to the old scene to pop up a new scene using pop scene like so. So how does this work? You can use the push scene method to display a modal scene. In this case, an easy way to suspend a game scene is to pause the game. You know a layer, a sprite, and other nodes can be displayed by using the add child method. However, a scene cannot be displayed using add child. It can be displayed by using the replace scene or push scene methods. That's why a scene is visible only on one screen at a time. Scene and layer are similar, but actually there is a significant difference. When scenes are replaced in a game, the applications will release the memory used by the old scenes. However, if games push scenes, they will not release the memory used by the old scenes. The old scenes just get suspended. If you added a lot of scenes using the push scene method, the device memory will no longer be enough. So be careful while using push scene. Awesome! We have explored the transitioning between scenes using two ways. In the next video, we'll transition between scenes with effects. See you next time. Previously, we saw how to add transitions between scenes. In this video, we'll add effects while transitioning. We'll discuss how to use transition class and see how to use two particular methods. OnEnter transition did finish and OnExit transition did start. If we display effects when transitioning between scenes, it helps us add an exciting feature to our games. These effects can be natural, dramatic, and so on. Cocos2d-x has a lot of transitioning effects. Let's explore how to use a transitioning effect and the effect that's produced. You can add visual effects to a scene transition by using the transition class. Cocos2d-x has many kinds of transition classes. However, there is only one pattern for how to use them. It can be used when a scene was pushed. How does this work? Firstly, you need to create the next scene object. Then you need to create a transition object with a set duration and an incoming scene object. Lastly, you need to run replace scene or push scene with the transition object. This example sets the duration for the transition scene and the fade action as 1 second. You can refer to this page if you wanted to know a list of all the transition classes that can be used. You can also learn the beginning and the end of the transition scene by using the OnEnter transition did finish method and the OnExit transition did start method. When your game shows the new scene completely, the OnEnter transition did finish method is called. When the old scene starts disappearing, the OnExit transition did start method is called. If you'd like to do something during the time that the scenes appear or disappear, you can use these methods. Now let's look at an example of using these methods. We'll have to edit hello world scene.h like so. Remove this attribute and add a call to these methods. Next, we'll edit hello-world-scene.cpp. We'll have to replace this entire code. We'll then add a CC log in the body of these two methods. Great! This marks the end of video 4.3. We've discussed how to make our game more exciting by adding effects while transitioning between scenes. In the next video, we'll create transitions for replacing scenes. In the last video, we saw how to transition between scenes using effects. In this video, we are going to take a look at creating our own transitions. We'll create them for replacing scenes and then also for popping scenes. Even though Cocos2d-x has a lot of different types of transition classes, you may not find a transition effect that you need. Instead of this, we can create an original transition effect, such as opening a door. When the replacement of a scene begins, the previous scene is divided into two and open to the left or right. Let's see how to execute this. We have to create new files named transitiondoor.h and transitiondoor.cpp and add them to our project. So, duplicate titlescene.cpp and rename it to transitiondoor.cpp. In the same way, we'll create transitiondoor.h. Since we have duplicated title scene, these two files contain title scene's code. Let's replace them with a new code that will make our original transition. Edit transitiondoor.h. Now let's edit transitiondoor.cpp. All types of transitions have transition scene as a superclass. Transition scene is a basic class and has a basic transition process. If you would like to create an original transition effect in an easier way, you would look for a similar transition effect in Cocos2d-x. You can then create your class from a similar class. The transition door class is created from the transition split call class. Then we can add or modify them where necessary. However, it is necessary to have basic knowledge about them in order to fix them. Here are some of the important properties of the transition class. In the case of the transition door class, the next scene will be set to be visible, and the previous scene is split into two grids on the onEnter method. Then, an effect such as opening a door is started. In the action method, an instance of the action class is created by using the split door class. The split door class is based on the split call class in Cocos2d-x. The split door class moves two grids in the previous scene to the left or to the right. There's something more that you need to know here. These are methods defined in the node class. If you want to play background music when the scene appears on the screen, you can play it by using the onEnter method. If you want to play it before finishing the transition effect, use the onEnter transition did-finish method. Other than these, the initial process on the onEnter method starts the animation in the onEnter transition did-finish method, cleans up the process in the onExit method, and so on. Let's now start making original transitions for popping scenes. Cocos2d-x has transition effects for pushing a scene, but for some reason, it does not have transition effects for popping scenes. We'd like to transition with an effect for popping scenes if we have pushed scenes with effects. Let's create an original transition for that. For that, you will need a new class. We have to make new class files called director-ex.h and director-ex.cpp. So I'm duplicating titlescene.h and renaming it to director-ex.h. I'll do the same for director-ex.cpp. Since these files still contain the code for title scene, let's edit them. director-ex.h and then director-ex.cpp. How does this work? If we customize the director class in Cocos2d-x, it can transition with an effect for popping a scene. However, this is not a good idea. Therefore, we create a subclass of the Director class called the Director-EX class and use this class in this way. Firstly, you can get an instance of the Director-EX class to cast an instance of the Director class. Then you have to get an instance of the previous scene. Next, you have to create a transition effect. Finally, you can pop a scene with this effect by using the pop scene method. Awesome! We've come to the end of video 4.4. We saw how to create our own transitions to make our game lively. In the next video, we'll start creating layers. Hey, welcome back! We dived deep in the world of creating our own transitions in the previous video. Let's talk about creating layers in this one. In this video, we are going to take a look at creating basic layers, colored layers, and then modal layers. A layer is an object that can be used on a scene. It is a transparent sheet where all the objects are added in order to be displayed on the screen. Further, a scene can have multiple layers. Layers are also responsible for accepting inputs, drawing, and touching. For example, in the game, a scene has a background layer, HUD layer, and a player's layer. Let's see how to use layer. The code shown here will create a layer and add it to a scene. That's pretty easy. Now, if you have a color layer, you can do it. How does this work? Well, the scene class is the one layered on the screen, but the layer class can be stacked in many layers. A scene has one or more layers, and a sprite has to be on a layer. The layer class is a transparent sheet. In addition to this, a transparent node needs more CPU power, so you need to be careful not to stack too many layers. Now let's start creating modal layers. In user interface design, a modal layer is an important layer. It's like a child window. When a modal layer is showing, players cannot touch any other button outside of it. They can only touch the button on the modal layer. We will need modal layers when we confirm something with the players. Let's dive into creating these layers. Firstly, you have to create two new files, modallayer.h and modallayer.cpp. Let's modify these two files. First, modallayer.h and then modallayer.cpp. It is easy to create a modal layer in Cocos2d-x version 3. A touch event occurs from the top of the layer. So if the modal layer picks up all of the touch events, the nodes under the modal layer are notified of this. The modal layer picks up all of the events. Refer to this code. A little pro tip. This modal layer can pick up all touching events. However, Android has key events like the back key. If a player touches the back key when the modal layer is displayed, you have to decide its outcome. In one of these cases, the modal is closed, and in another, the back key is ignored. Excellent! With this, we've reached the end of this section. In this section, we have created scenes. After that, we saw transitioning between scenes, then created our original transitions, and finally created layers for our game. We're slowly building our game. Nice! In the next section, we'll start building the user interface.
Hi, and welcome to Section 5, Creating GUIs. We dove deep into the world of scenes in the previous section. In this section, we'll have a look at creating menus, buttons, checkboxes. Then, we'll dive into loading bars and sliders. After that, we'll have a look at text fields. Finally, we'll explore scroll views, page views, and list views. Now, we move on to the first video of this section that deals with menus. We will have a glance over creating menus to to understand its complexity and to get used to them. A menu has various buttons, such as a start button and a pause button. It is a very important component for any game, and it's really useful too. However, the steps to use a menu are a little complex. We have already prepared an image as a button image and added it to our project. Let's check it out. You could see it in the res folder. We're going to use this button image called item1.png to use it as a menu. Okay, so firstly, we will create a simple menu that has one item for a button, and we'll use this image. Create the menu by using the code that I'm adding here. How does this work? First, we'll create a sprite of the normal status when the button is not operated. Second, we'll create a sprite of the selected status when the button is pressed. In this case, we have used the same image for both the statuses, but our players won't understand the change in status when they tap the button. That's why we have changed the selected image to a slightly darker image by using the setColor method. Now the third part. Create an instance of the menu item sprite class by using these two sprites. The third argument specifies the lambda expression to be processed when the button is pressed. Let's see this in action. You will notice that the button becomes a little dark when you tap it. Further, you can see the tapped item text in the log after tapping the menu item. This time, we created only one button in the menu, but we can add more buttons in the menu. To do so, we can enumerate several items in the menu, create method, and specify null pointer at the end. To add multiple buttons in the menu, we can use this code. In addition, it is possible to add an item by using the addChild method of the menu instance. If the button is pressed, the lambda expression that you specify when you create an instance of menu item sprite starts running. The argument is passed an instance, menu item sprite, that was pressed. It is also possible to automatically align multiple buttons. For that, let's create two more buttons. I've created and added them in the res folder. These are named Item 1, Item 2, and Item 3. We'll use buttons and align those buttons vertically in the center of the screen. Let's add the code for that and see the output. Great, isn't it? Now, if you want to align these items horizontally, instead of this line, you can use Align Items Horizontally. Until now, the alignment of intervals has been adjusted automatically. However, if you want to specify the padding, you can use another method. Align items vertically with padding. We'll specify the intervals side by side in a vertical manner. And align items horizontally with padding, we'll do it in a horizontal manner. Awesome! That's it for this video. We covered menus in this one. Let's go over buttons the next time. Previously, we saw how to create menus. We'll first create buttons and then checkboxes in this video. Before the button class was released, we created a button by using the menu class that we saw in the previous video. Due to the button class, it has become possible to finally control the button press. How to use the button class? Well, in order to use this class and other GUI parts mentioned in this section, you must include the Cocos2d-x file. Let's add these lines of code in the hello world scene.cpp file. Let's take a look at it step by step. Note that the button and the classes for other GUI parts mentioned in this section, classes have their own namespace, such as Cocos2d-UI. It is easy to create an instance of the button class. You only need to specify the sprite file name, in our case, item1.png. Further, you could create a callback function as a lambda expression by using the addTouchEventListener method. This function has two parameters. The first parameter is a button instance that was pressed. The second parameter is the touch status. Touch statuses are of four types. Touch event type began is the status at the moment that the button is pressed. Touch event type moved is the event type that occurs when you move your finger after you press it. Touch event type ended is the event that occurs at the moment you release your finger from the screen. Touch event type canceled is the event that occurs when you release your finger outside of the button. Okay, let's run this project and see what happens. We can now push the button. Further, you can move your touch position and release your finger. You will see that the touch status of the button will change in the log. Good. Well, there's something more. It is possible to create a button instance by specifying the selected status image and the disabled status image. You could create this button by using the code here. Unlike the menu item sprite class, you won't be able to specify the selection status by changing the normal image color that was set using the setColor method. You have to prepare the images as selected image and disabled image. Okay. Next, let's now move on to creating a checkbox. In Cocos2d-x version 2, a checkbox was created by using the menu item toggle class. However, doing so was quite cumbersome. In Cocos2d-x version 3, we could create a checkbox by using the checkbox class that could be used in Cocos Studio. So let's prepare the images of the checkbox. Before you start, here we have prepared the images of the required minimum on and off status. Add these images to the resources/res folder. The on status image will look something like this, and the off status image will look like this. Let's create a checkbox by using the checkbox class. Here's the code for it. First, you will generate a checkbox instance by using the check_box_normal.png image and the check_box_active.png image. You will also specify the callback function as a lambda expression by using the addEventListener method when the checkbox status is changed. The following figure shows that the checkbox was selected by running the preceding code. It generates the instance of a checkbox, specifying the on and off images. Further, the callback function was specified in the same way as the button class was in the previous recipe. A checkbox has two event type options, namely UI::checkbox::event type ::se, selected, and UI::checkbox::event type ::unselected. You can also get the status of the checkbox by using the isSelected method. You can also change the status of the checkbox by using the setSelected method. In addition, it is possible to further specify the image of a more detailed checkbox status. The checkbox::create method has 5 parameters. These parameters are as follows: F, unselected image, F, unselected and pushing image, F, selected image, F, unselected and disabled image, F, selected and disabled image. Here's how to specify the images of these 5 statuses. To disable the checkbox, use the following code. Awesome! We've successfully created buttons and checkboxes in this video. In the next video, we'll be creating loading bars. See you around! In the previous video, we looked at how to create checkboxes and buttons. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to create loading bars and learn in detail about the slider. When you are consuming a process or downloading something, you can indicate that it is not frozen by showing its progress to the user. To show such progresses, Cocos2d-x has a loading bar class. In this video, you will learn how to create and show the loading bars. Getting ready. Firstly, we have to prepare an image for the progress bar. This image is called loadingbar.png. You will add this image in the resources/res folder. It generates an instance of the loading bar by specifying the image of the loading bar. Further, it is set to 0% by using the set% method. Finally, in order to advance the bar from 0% to 100% by 1% at 0.1s, we will use the schedule method as follows. The following figure is an image of the loading bar at 100%. You have to specify one image as the loading bar image to create an instance of the loading bar class. You could set the percentage of the loading bar by using the set% method. Further, you could get its percentage by using the get% method. By default, the loading bar will progress toward the right. You could change this direction by using the setDirection method. When you set the UI loading bar direction right value, the start position of the loading bar is the right edge. Then the loading bar will progress in the left direction. In this video, we will explain the slider. The slider will be used for tasks such as changing the volume of the sound or music. Cocos2d-x has a slider class for it. If we use this class, we can create a slider easily. Getting ready. So, let's prepare the images of the slider. Before we start, please add these images in the resources/res folder. Slidertrack.png, background of the slider. Sliderthumb.png, image to move the slider. Let's create a slider by using the slider class. First, you will generate a slider instance by using the slidertrack.png image and the sliderthumb.png image. You will also specify the callback function as a lambda expression by using the addEventListener method when the slider value is changed. The following figure shows the result of the preceding code. You have to specify two images as the slider's bar image and the slider's thumb image to create an instance of the slider class. The callback function was specified in the same way as the button class was in the previous video. The slider has only one event type as UI slider event type on percentage changed. That's why the status is the only changing value. You could get the percentage shown on the slider by using the get% method. If you want to see the progress on the slider, you can use the load progress bar texture method. We will require an image. For the progress bar, the following image shows the progress bar image. Let's add it to the resources/res folder. Then we use the load progress bar texture method by specifying this image. Let's run the code that has been modified so far. You will see it with the color on the left side of the bar as shown in the following screenshot. Awesome! We've successfully created loading bars and sliders in this video. In the next video, we'll see how to create text fields. In the previous video, we looked at loading bars and sliders. In this video, we are going to take a look at how to create a text field to add nicknames in your game. You may want to set a nickname in your game. To set nicknames or to get the player's input text, you can use the text field class. In this video, we will learn about a simple text field sample and how to add a text field in a game. How to do it. You will create a text field by specifying the placeholder text, font name, and font size. Then, you set a callback function by using addEventListener. In the callback function, you could get the text that the player input in the text field. Create the text field by using the following code. Let's run this code. You will see it within the placeholder text, and it will show you the keyboard automatically, as shown in the following screenshot. 1. You create an instance of the text field class. The first argument is the placeholder string. The second argument is the font name. You could specify only a true type font. The third argument is the font size. 2. You could get the event by using the addEventListener method. The following list provides the event names and their descriptions. There's more. When a player enters a password, you have to hide it by using the setPasswordEnable method. Let's run the code that has been modified so far. You will see how to hide a password that you enter as shown in the following screenshot. In this video, we have learned about creating text fields for your game. In the next video, we are going to take a look at scroll views, page views, and list views. In the previous video, we looked at adding text fields and passwords to our game. In this video, we are going to take a look at scroll views, page views, and list views. When a huge map is displayed in your game, a scroll view is required. It can be scrolled by a swipe and bounce at the edge of the area. In this video, we explain the scroll view class of Cocos2d-x. Let's implement it right away. In this case, we doubled the size of helloworld.png. Further, we try to display this huge image in scroll view. Create the scroll view by using the following code. Let's run this code. You will see the huge helloworld.png image. Further, you will see that you can scroll it by swiping. 1. Create an instance of the scroll view class by using the create method without arguments. 2. You set the direction of the scroll view by using the setDirection method. In this case, we want to scroll up and down and left and right. So, you should set UI: scroll view: direction: both. This implies that we could scroll in both the vertical and the horizontal directions. If you want to scroll just up and down, you set UI: scroll view: direction: vertical. If you want to scroll just left and right, you set UI: scroll view: direction: horizontal. 3. If you want to bounce when it is scrolled at the edge of the area, you should set true by using the setBounceEnabled method. 4. You will provide the content to be displayed in the scroll view. Here, we have used helloworld.png that has been scaled twice. You have to specify the size of the content in the scroll view by using the setInnerContainerSize method. In this case, we specify double the size of helloworld.png in the setInnerContainerSize method. 6. You have to specify the size of the scroll view by using the setContentSize method. In this case, we specify the original size of helloworld.png by using the setContentSize method. Creating page views. A page view is similar to a scroll view, but it will be scrolled on a page-by-page basis. Page view is also a class in Cocos2d-x. In this video, we will explain how to use the page view class. How to do it? Let's immediately get it implemented. Here, we will arrange 3 images of helloworld.png side by side in the page view. Create the page view by using the following code. When you run this code, you will see 1. helloworld.png. You will see that you can move to the next page by using a swiping movement. Create an instance of the page view class by using the create method without arguments. Here, we set it as the same size as that of the screen. Display 3 helloworld.png images side by side. You must use the layout class to set the page layout in page view. Set the page size and add the image by using the addChild method. Insert an instance of the layout class to the page view by using the insert page method. At this time, you specify the page number as the second argument. Get the event when the page has changed. You use the add event listener method. Page view has only one event. Page view, event type, turning. You can get the current page number by using the get current page index method. List view is a class in Cocos2d-x. It is like UI table view for iOS or list view for Android. List view is useful for creating a lot of buttons as required in the case of setting a scene. In this video, we will explain how to use the list view class. How to do it. Here, we try to display list view that has 20 buttons. Each button is identified with a number, such as list item 10. In addition, we display the number of the buttons that you selected. On the log, when you tap any button, create the list view by using the following code. When you run this code, you will see some buttons. You will see that you could scroll it by swiping, and you could get the number of the button you tapped. Create an instance of the list view class. It is possible to specify the scroll direction in the same way as scroll view. Since we want to scroll only in the vertical direction, you specify UI, list view, direction, vertical. Also, you could specify the bounce at the edge of the area by using the set bounce enabled method. 2. Create 20 buttons to display in the list view. You have to use the layout class to display the content in the list view, as in the case of page view. You add an instance of the button class to the instance of the layout class. 3. Get the event by using the add event listener method. List view has two events, namely on_selected_item_start and on_selected_item_end. When you touch the list view, on_selected_item_start is fired. When you release the finger without moving it, on_selected_item_end is fired. If you move your finger, on_selected_item_end is not fired, and it will be a scrolling process. You could get the button number by using the get cur selected index method. In this video, we have learned about scroll views, page views, and list views. Well, that's about it for this video. We took a look at creating menus, buttons, and checkboxes. Then we saw loading bars and sliders. After that, we dove into text fields. Finally, we explored scroll views, page views, and list views. Next, let's play sounds. Hi everyone, welcome to section 6 of this course. Playing sounds. In the previous section, we learned how to create various GUI parts like buttons, checkboxes, menus, etc. A game without sound will be boring and lifeless. Background music and sound effects that suit the visuals will lighten up the game. In this section, we are going to see how to create sound effects and control them as per our need using two very effective audio engines, Simple Audio Engine and Audio Engine. These topics will be covered in this section. Learning how to play background music and sound effects. We'll then control their pitch and volume. We will further learn to pause and resume background music and sound effects. We'll then play them using Audio Engine. And finally, we'll learn how to play movies. So, let's get started. This video will discuss playing background music. Here we are, learning to play background music using Simple Audio Engine. Playing background music is our first stop. By using Simple Audio Engine, we can play background music very easily. Simple Audio Engine is a shared singleton object that can be called from anywhere in your code. In Simple Audio Engine, we can play only one background score. This is how your Cocos2d window will look like. First, we have to add an MP3 file to our resources folder. You could pick any sound file that you like. Let me show you the folder path where the file will be placed. Go to File, then Add Files to My Game. Let's go to our home directory. You can see Users. Go to Cocos root. There's a folder called Test, CPP Tests. There you will find the resources folder. Here's your background.mp3 file. Select it and click on Add. There, your MP3 file is added. Good. Now you will add your code. So, here's the code, and now you have to build and run it. There, the track you wanted. Now, Simple Audio Engine also supports a number of other formats, including MP3 and Core Audio format. As you can see on the table, here are the various combinations of the platforms and the file format. If you want to play a sound in a different format on iOS and Android, you could play it by using this macro code. In this code, if the device is Android, it plays an OGG file. If the device is iOS, it plays a CAF file. You could also experiment with other combinations. In the next video, we will learn to play a sound effect. I hope to see you there. In the last video, we learned how to play background music using Simple Audio Engine. This video will discuss to play sound effects. So, it's pretty simple, right? Let's start. We will immediately try to play a sound effect. The audio format is changed, depending on the operating system, by using the macro that was introduced in the previous video. First things first, as we added the MP3 file to the resources folder, we have to add two files to the resources folder for sound effect. Follow the same path that we mentioned while playing background music. In the resources folder, you will see background.caf and background.ogg. Add these two files. You could see them here under resources. Let's add the code now. As you could see, some part is the same as that for the background file. As you could see, the background.caf and .ogg files are in preload and playload, respectively. Build and run the code. Yes, I got the sound effect. Simple and easy. The number of sound effects that we can play at the same time on Android is less than that on iOS. So, we will now see how to increase this number for Android. The maximum number of simultaneous playbacks is defined in Cocos2d-x Sound.java. It's placed inside My Game, Cocos2d, Cocos, Platform, Android, Java, src, org, Cocos2d-x, and finally, the lib folder. Phew! Here's the file, Cocos2d-x Sound.java. When you open it, on this line, you see that the maximum simultaneous playback is defined as 5. If we change this value to 10, we could play 10 sound effects at the same time. That's all. I hope you are confident now to play sound effects on your own. And you do playing around with it. The next video will teach how to control volume, pitch, and balance. Hello everyone. Welcome back. In the previous video, we learned to play sound effects for our game, but our sound has to be perfect. Don't you agree? So, in this video, we will learn how to control pitch, volume, and balance of the sound effects created by us. Let's try to immediately play a sound effect by controlling its volume, pitch, and balance. The following is the code snippet to do so. You could control the volume for sound effects by using the set effects volume method. The maximum value for the volume is 1.0 and the minimum value is 0.0. If you set the volume to 0.0, the sound effect is muted. The default value of the volume is 1.0. You could play multiple sound effects at the same time, but you cannot set the volume for these effects individually. To change the master volume for sound effects, set a volume by using the set effects volume method. If you want to change the volume individually, you should use a gain value, which we will explain later. The second argument in the play effect method is the flag for continuously playing the sound effects. For the third and subsequent arguments, please check the following table. The pitch is the quality that allows us to classify a sound as relatively high or low. By using this pitch, we can control the playing speed in the third argument. If you set the pitch to less than 1.0, the sound effect is played slowly. If you set it to more than 1.0, the sound effect is played quickly. If you set it to 1.0, the sound effect plays at the original speed. The maximum value of the pitch is 2.0. However, you could set the pitch to more than 2.0 in iOS. On the other hand, the maximum value of the pitch in Android is 2.0. Therefore, we adopted the maximum value as the lower. You could change the balance of the left and the right speakers by changing the pan in the fourth argument. If you set it to -1.0, you can hear it only from the left speaker. If you set it to 1.0, you can hear it from only the right speaker. The default value is 0.0. You can hear it at the same volume from both the left and the right speakers. Unfortunately, you will not be able to figure out much difference in the speaker of the device. If you use the headphones, you can hear this difference. You could change the volume of each sound effect by changing the gain in the fifth argument. You could set the master volume by using the set effect volume method, and the volume of each effect by changing the gain value. If you set it to 0.0, its volume is mute. If you set it to 1.0, its volume is the maximum. The final volume of the sound effects will be a combination of the gain value and the value specified in the set effects volume method. In this video, we have seen how to control the pitch, volume, and balance of the sound effects. In the next video, we're going to stop and pause sound effects and then resume them. In the previous video, we controlled the pitch and volume of our sound effects. Here, we're going to stop, pause, and resume the background music. Let's get started with it. We already learned how to play background music in the first video, so we're going to use that code again here. As you can see, it is the same code. So, I run it and my background music plays. We will leave it playing for our further demonstration. Let's try to stop it now. It's very easy. You have to just type in this code, run it. And there, we can't hear it anymore. Stopping completely ends the music. But sometimes we just need to pause the music for a while. In that case, we can use the code for pause. The difference between pause and stop is you can resume the music after pause, but you have to play it again after stop. Since we used stop before, we have to play the music again, using the code for play. Then, we type in the code for pause. Let's run it. And our music is paused. Now I want to resume it again. So, we have a code for resume too. And we hit run. And our music is playing again. If you don't want to put on your headphones continuously and listen to the same tone over and over again, here's a tip for you. You could determine whether the background music is playing by using the is background music playing method. Here's the code. Do try it and let me know if it worked. Great! We learned how to stop, pause, and resume background music in this video. In the next video, we will do the same to sound effects. So, see you there! In the previous video, we learned how to pause, stop, and resume background music. Why not try that with sound effects too? In this video, we're going to stop and pause sound effects and then resume them. This is going to be really simple as we're repeating the procedure from the previous video with minute changes. You already know the code to play a sound effect. So, let's open it, run it. So, our sound effect is playing. Now, we want to stop it. Now, as we've seen before, Simple Audio Engine can play multiple sound effects. Therefore, we have to specify the sound effect or effects which we want to pause, stop, or resume specifically. You could do that using the sound ID that you get when you play the sound effect. So, type in the code for stopping sound effect. Here it is. As you can hear, there is no sound effect anymore. Let's try pausing it now. We have to modify the code. Replace the stop with pause, and then run it. As our sound effect is paused, we still don't hear any sound. I want to resume it, so I will just replace pause with resume here, and then build and run it. And it works! Also, you could stop, pause, or resume all the playing sound effects at once. Here's the code. The code has stop all effects instead of the sound ID for particular sound effect. Something you could try. So, experimenting with sound effects was successful. I hope you had fun. In the next video, we're going to play sound effects and background music using Audio Engine. Can't wait to see you there. In the previous video, we looked at learning how to play, resume, stop, pause, sound effects, and background music. In this video, we're going to look at Audio Engine. Simple Audio Engine. Since you have already said the goal of the section, you now have to brief the viewers. Audio Engine is a new class from Cocos2d-x version 3.3. Simple Audio Engine cannot play multiple background scores, but Audio Engine can play them. Furthermore, Audio Engine can call a callback function when it finishes playing the background music. In addition, we can get the playtime by using the callback function. In this recipe, we will learn more about the brand new Audio Engine. We have to include the header file of Audio Engine to use it. Further, Audio Engine has a namespace called experimental. To include the header file, you will need to add the following code. Audio Engine is much easier than Simple Audio Engine. Its API is very simple. The following code can be used to play, stop, pause, and resume the background music. Audio Engine no longer needs the preload method. Further, Audio Engine does not distinguish between background music and sound effects. You could play both background music and sound effects by using the same method. When you play it, you could get a sound ID as the return value. You have to specify the sound ID when you change the volume, stop it, pause it, and so on. If you want to unload audio files from the memory, you can uncache by using the Audio Engine : uncache method, or the Audio Engine : uncache all method. In the case of uncache method, you have to specify the path that you want to unload. In the case of the uncache all method, all audio data is unloaded from the memory. While unloading files, you have to stop the related music and sound effects. In this video, we have learned about Simple Audio Engine and Audio Engine. In the previous video, we learned how to play background music and sound effects using Audio Engine. Here, we're going to learn more about it. Have you seen the little video clips that play during a game? Don't they make the game experience livelier? So, let's learn how to add that to our games. If you want to play a movie in your game, Cocos2d-x provides a video player class for this purpose. You have to prepare something before using the video player class. You have to add the movie file you want to play to the resources/res folder. I've added the video called splash.mp4 here. Now that we have added the video file, we will write our code. You could see the hello world scene.cpp on the left side of your window. We have to add the code there. This is my code here. After adding code to hello world scene.cpp, we add code to hello world scene.h. So here's the code for hello world scene.h. In Xcode, you have to add media player.framework now. For that, go to My Game, then Build Phases. You could see link binary with libraries. Under that, click on media player.framework and add it. An android.mk file has to be added from this following path in your project folder: proj.android/jni/android.mk. We have to modify this code a bit. Add a line of code here. Okay, let's go to our project folder. We have added all the codes, and we are ready to build and run. So, that was the video clip I had to play. That was excellent. It was a lengthy process, but I hope you got all that. We have to add a video file. mediaplayer.framework, android.mk, and our code. And the video is played. Now, let's summarize what we have learned in the complete section. We have learned to play background music and sound effects using Simple Audio Engine and Audio Engine both. We have also seen that we can control their pitch and volume. We have understood how to pause, stop, and resume background music and sound effects. And last but not least, we played a movie. In the next section, we will work with resource files a game requires. For example, images, audio files, etc. Management of these files is very important and must be understood. So, See you in the next section. Till then, keep coding. Hi, and welcome to Section 7, Selecting and Managing Resource Files. The previous section gave us the information on playing the background music and sound effects. In this section, we will see how to work with resource files such as images and audio files. We will start by selecting and managing resource files. Then, we will learn how to use SQLite. In the end, we will learn how to use .xml, .plist, and .json files. Now we move on to the first video of the section, where we will be selecting and managing resource files. We will start off this video by setting the priority to search resources and later update its latest version. We will first see how to select the resource files. Your game has images of each resolution. For multi-resolution adaptation, if you have resolved to find an image for each resolution, your application logic is very complicated. Cocos2d-x has a search path mechanism for solving this problem. This video will explain this search path mechanism. If you want to share some resources between different resolutions, then you can put all the shared resources in the Resources folder and put the resolution-specified resources in different folders as shown here. closenormal.png and closeselected.png are shared resources between different resolutions. However, helloworld.png is a resolution-specified resource. You could set the priority to search resources for Cocos2d-x by using this code. Cocos2d-x will find helloworld.png in resources/iPad. Cocos2d-x will use helloworld.png in this path. That's why it can find this resource in resources/iPad. However, Cocos2d-x cannot find closenormal.png in resources/iPad. It will find the resources folder. That is the next order path. The system can find it in the resources folder and use it. You should add this code in the app delegate : application did finish launching method before creating the first scene. Then, the first scene can use this search path setting. Next, we will see the search path mechanism called Managing Resource Files. Cocos2d-x has an extension that manages resources. It is called Assets Manager Extension. This extension is designed for a hot update of resources, such as images and audio files. You can update a new version of resources on your games by using this extension without updating your applications. Before using Assets Manager extension, you should learn about it. This extension has many useful features to help you make the hot update. Some of these features are as follows: multi-thread downloading support, 2-level progression support, file level and byte level progression, compressed zip file support, resuming download, detail progression information and error information, possibility to retry failed assets. You have to prepare a web server, and hence, your application will download resources. You need to upload resources and manifest files. In this case, we will update helloworld.png and a zip file called test.zip. This .zip file includes some images. Assets Manager extension will download resources. According to the manifest files, the manifest files are version.manifest and project.manifest. The version.manifest file contains this code. The project.manifest file contains this code. Then, you have to upload these manifest files and new resources. Next, you have to prepare your application for a hot update. You have to create the local.manifest file in your project. The local manifest file should contain this code. We will now make a class that manages Assets Manager extension in your project. Here, we create a class called Resource Manager. Firstly, you will create a header file. It is called resourcemanager.h. You go to File, Duplicate, Save as resourcemanager.h. This file contains the code, which is shown here. The next step is to create a resource manager.cpp file in a similar manner. This file will contain the code. Finally, to start updating the resource, use the modified code. Firstly, we will explain the manifest file and the mechanism of Assets Manager extension. The manifest files are in the JSON format. Local manifest and version manifest have this data. In addition, the remote manifest has this data in the key called assets. Assets Manager extension will execute the hot update as per these steps. One, read the local manifest in the application. 2. Download the version manifest according to the remote version URL in the local manifest. 3. Compare the version in the local manifest to the version in the version manifest. If both versions do not match, Assets Manager extension downloads the project manifest according to the remote manifest URL in the local manifest. 5. Compare the MD5 value in the remote manifest to the MD5 of the asset in the application if both MD5 values do not match. 7. Next time, Assets Manager extension will use the version manifest that was downloaded instead of the local manifest. Next, we will explain the Resource Manager class. You can execute the hot update by running the code. You should call the Resource Manager update assets method by specifying the path of the local manifest. Resource Manager update assets will create an instance of Assets Manager X, which is the class name of Assets Manager extension, by specifying the path of the local manifest and the path of the storage in the application. It will create an instance of Event Listener Assets Manager X for listening to the progress of the hot update. If the compressed value is true, Assets Manager extension will unzip it after downloading it. Resource Manager dispatches the event called event_progress if it catches the event called update_progression. If you catch event_progress, you should update the progress label. Awesome! So, we now know how to select and manage resource files. Let's move to the next video to learn how to use SQLite. Previously, we saw how to select and manage resource files. In this video, we'll see how to set up and use SQLite in Cocos2d-x. We will start by creating SQLite Manager. Then, we will add files and edit the project. You can save and load game data easily by using the database in your game. In a smartphone application, the database called SQLite is usually used. SQLite is easy to use. However, you have to set a few things before using it. In this video, we will explain how to set up and use SQLite in Cocos2d-x. Cocos2d-x doesn't have an SQLite library. You have to add SQLite's source code to Cocos2d-x. You need to download the source code from the site http:// sqlite.org/download.html. The latest version at the time of writing this book is version 3.8.10. You could download this version's .zip file and expand it. Then, you can add the resulting files to your project, as shown in the following image. In this recipe, we will create an original class called SQLiteManager. So, you have to add SQLiteManager.cpp and SQLiteManager.h files to your project. Then, if you build for Android, you have to edit proj.android/jni/android.mk as follows. First, you have to edit the SQLiteManager.h file by using this code. Next, you have to edit the SQLiteManager.cpp file. This code is a little long, so we will go step by step. First, we will see how to add the following code for the singleton class. Next, you have to add the method that opens and closes the database. We'll now add the method that inserts data to the database. Now, you can add the method that selects data from the database. Finally, here's how to use this class. To insert data, use the following code. To select data, use the following code. Firstly, in the constructor method, SQLiteManager class, this class creates a table called data if it does not already exist. The data table is created in SQL as shown. In order to use SQLite, you have to include SQLite3.h and use the SQLite3 API. This API is in the C language. If you would like to learn it, you should check the website. We created our database, called test.sqlite, in the sandbox area of the application. If you want to change the location or the name, you should edit the open method. You can insert data by using the insert method to specify the key and the value. Further, you could select the value by using the select method to specify the key. In this video, we created the insert method and the select method. However, you can execute other SQL methods, such as delete and replace. Further, you can make the database match your game. So, you will need to edit this class for your game. Awesome! We have now learned how to use SQLite. In the next video, we'll see how to use .xml, .plist, and .json file. In the previous video, we looked at how to use SQLite. In this video, we're going to take a look at how to use .xml, .plist, and .json files. We will start with creating and parsing .xml files, and we will continue to do the same with .plist and .json files. This video will help us to learn how to use .xml, .plist, and .json files. Let's see how to use XML file. XML is often used as an API's return value. Cocos2d-x has the tinyxml2 library that can parse an XML file. In this video, we will explain how to parse XML files by using this library. Firstly, you need to create an XML file as shown here and save it as text.xml in the resources/res folder in your project. To use the tiny XML2 library, you have to include it and use namespace as follows. You can parse an XML file by using the tiny XML2 library. In the following code, we parse test.xml and log each element in it. This result is the following log. First, you will have to create an instance of XML document and then parse the .xml file by using the XML document : load file method. To get the root element, you will have to use the XML document : root element method. Basically, you can get the element by using the first child element method. If it is a continuous element, you can get the next element by using the next sibling element method. If there are no more elements, the return value of next sibling element will be null. Finally, you shouldn't forget to delete the instance of XML document. That's why you created it using a new operation. Now, we will see how to use .plist files. plist, used in OS X and iOS, is a property list. The file extension is .plist, but in fact, the plist format is an XML format. We often use .plist files to store game settings and so on. Cocos2d-x has a class through which you can easily use .plist files. Firstly, you need to create a new .plist file and save it as test.plist to the resources/res folder in your project. In this case, it has two keys, namely foo and bar. The foo key has an integer value of 1. The bar key has a string value of "this is string." Refer to the following code. You could parse a .plist file by using the file utils : get value map from file method. In the following code, we parse test.plist and log a key value in it. You can parse a .plist file by specifying the .plist file's path to the file utils : get value map from file method. After doing so, you get the data from the .plist file as a value map value. The value map class is a wrapper class-based std : unordered _ map. plist data containers are array and dictionary. After parsing the .plist file, array is std : vector bracket value end bracket. And dictionary is std : unordered _ map bracket std : string comma space value end bracket. Further, you can distinguish the type of value by using the value : get type method. Then, you can get the value by using the value : as int, as float, as double, and as string methods. You could save the .plist file from value map. By doing so, you could save your game data in the .plist file. To save the .plist file, use the following code. First, you need to set the key value in value map. In this case, the values are all of the integer type, but you could set mixed type values as well. Finally, you need to save the file as a .plist file by using the file utils : write to file method. We will now see how to use .json files. We can use the JSON format, like the XML format, for saving loading game-related data. JSON is a simpler format than XML. It takes less space to represent the same data than the XML file format. Further, today, it is used as the value of Web API. Cocos2d-x has a JSON parse library called Rapid JSON. In this recipe, we will explain how to use Rapid JSON. Rapid JSON is usually included in Cocos2d-x. However, you need to include the header files as follows. Firstly, we will parse a JSON string as follows. You could parse JSON by using rapid JSON : document as follows. You could parse JSON by using the document : parse method and specifying the JSON string. You may get a parse error when you use the document : has parse error method. You can get a description of this error by using the document : get parse error method for a string. Further, you could get an element by specifying the hash key and using the document : get string method. In a real application, you could get a JSON string from a file. We will now explain how to get the string from a file. First, you need to add a file called test.json to the resources/res folder in your project and save it as follows. Next, you could get a JSON string from a file as follows. You could get the string from the file by using the file utils : get string from file method. Thereafter, you could parse in the same way. In addition, this JSON string may be an array. You could check whether the format is an array by using the document : isArray method. Then, you can use a for loop to go through the JSON object in the array. Awesome! We've now learned how to use .xml, .plist, and .json files. So, in this section, we saw how to select and manage resources. We also saw how to use SQLite and how to use .xml, .plist, and .json files. Hey there, welcome back. Previously, we worked with hardware. We will talk about controlling physics. In this section, we will be looking at using the physics engine and then detecting collisions. This is the first video dealing with using physics engine. In this video, you will learn how to use the basic physics engine in Cocos2d-x. What should you do when you realize that your game needs to simulate real-world situations? You know that the answer is to use a physics engine. When you start using a physics engine, you have to use some new classes and methods. Firstly, you have to create the physics world in your scene in hello world scene.cpp. You could create it by using this code. You have to create the physics world in the scene by using the scene : create with physics method. In this way, you can use the physics engine in your game. Next, you have to add the physics bodies in the physics world. A physics body is not visible. It is a physical shape such as a square or a circle or a more complex shape. Here, let's create a square shape. You have to create it and set it to the sprite to be visible. You have to create the wall upside down and from the left to the right on the screen edge. If you remove this wall and run the code, the sprite object will be falling forever. You could create an edge box by using the physics body : create edgebox method with this size and material setting. In this case, the wall will be of the same size as the screen. The material setting is specified as physics material, parenthesis 0.1f, 1.0f, 0.0, 0.0f, end parenthesis. This means that the density is 1.0f, restitution is 1.0f, and friction is 0.0. Let's try to change this parameter and check it in the given situation. Finally, you could create the physics body with the sprite. In this case, the sprite is circular in shape. So, you need to use the physics body, create circle method to create the circular physics body. Then, add the physics body to the sprite by using the set physics body method. Finally, you have to run this code. You can then see the sprite falling and bouncing on the ground. Awesome! Cocos2d-x has a lot of physics body shapes, as listed in this table. Then, you could get a physics world instance by using the getPhysicsWorld method. In this video, we set debug draw_all to the physics world. That's why you could see that the edges of all physics objects are red lines. When you release your game, you will have to remove this setting. Further, you could set the original gravity value to physics world. For example, you could change the gravity when the device was tilted. The following code is how to change the gravity. This code is against the force of the Earth's gravity. The default gravity value is vec2, parenthesis 0, negative 98.0, f, end parenthesis. Awesome! We saw how to use the physics engine. In the next video, we'll learn how to detect collisions. Previously, we saw how to use the physics engine. In this video, you learn how to detect a collision in the physics world. When a collision between physics objects occur, you want to take action against the physics bodies. For example, showing an explosion and showing a particle. Firstly, you have to create the event listener in the init method, like so. Next, you have to set the contact test bit mask to the physics bodies that you want to check the collisions for, like this. You could detect a collision in the physics world by using the event listener physics contact class. It will receive all the contact callbacks in the physics world. If you set the onContactBegin method in this listener, you could catch the collision of the physics bodies. You could get two physics shapes from the parameters physics contact instance. In the onContactBegin method, by using the getShapeA, getShapeB, and getBody method. The onContactBegin method returns true or false. If it returns true, the two physics bodies will collide. If it returns false, there will not be a collision response. So, you decide to check the type of collision of the two bodies anyway. The setContactTestBitMask method has a parameter to contact the test bit mask. This mask defines which categories of bodies cause intersection notifications with this physics body. When two bodies share the same space, each body's category mask is tested against the other body's contact mask by performing a logical AND operation. If either comparison results in a non-zero value, the physics contact object is created and passed Physics World's delegate. For best performance, only set bits in the contacts mask for the interactions you need. The bit mask is an integer number. The default value is 0x 0000000, all bits cleared. Physics contact has some other events, as listed in this table. That's all. We've learned how to detect collisions. In this video, we've seen how to use the physics engine, and finally, detecting collisions. In the next section, we'll discuss how to improve games with extra features. Hey there, welcome back. In the previous section, we saw how to control physics. In this section, we will talk about other features that are required to enhance the appeal of the game. We'll be using Texture Packer, using Tiled Map Editor, getting the property of the object in the tiled map, using Physics Editor, and using Glyph Designer. Now we move on to the first video of this section that deals with using Texture Packer. In this video, we are going to take a look at the use of Texture Packer to enhance our game features by using the already existing text, fonts, and images. Texture Packer is a tool that can drag and drop images and publish. With the use of this tool, we can not only create sprite sheets, but also export multi-sprite sheets. If there are a lot of sprites, then we need to use the command line tool when we create sprite sheets, encrypt them, and so on. Did you know Texture Packer is a paid application? However, you can use the free trial version. So, if you don't have it, let's download it right now. Go to codeandweb.com/texturepacker. Once you are here, click on the Download Texture Packer. Now, Texture Packer is being downloaded, and it's being saved at your machine. So, we have our .dmg file now with us. Let's go to our download folder, and we can find the Texture Packer DMG file located there. Once you have the DMG file, you need to do is just double-click on it. A pop-up window appears in front of you, and then you need to click on the Texture Packer icon. You need to launch Texture Packer. Agree all the license agreements. Once you click on Agree, you will see a blank window appearing on your screen. This is how our Texture Packer looks. Now, we will use our sprites in the Texture Packer window. You simply need to drag the images into the Texture Packer window, and it will automatically read all the files and arrange them. Now, let us add our sprites to the Texture Packer. Click on Add Sprites. We will be adding 8 sprites, so we need to select all of them. Now, click on Open. So, you can see in the left pane all the 8 sprites we have added just now. And that's it. So let's publish the sprite sheet image. Write Running and select .plist here. Then, click the Save button. That's how you could get the sprite sheet, image, and plist file. In this part, we explain to publish our sprite sheet for different devices, we need to go to Scaling Variants, located on your right-hand side. Click on the cogwheel, and here we will select Cocos2d-x HDR/HD/SD. So, click on Apply. It will set our Texture Packer to a default HDR scale. Now let's close this. We can now again publish our sprite sheet. Oh, we forgot to append. You need to do it. And then publish your sprite sheet and click on OK. Finally, you will get 3 size sprite sheets automatically in your Publish folder. Here we have 3 types of files: HD, plist, HD.png, HDR, plist, HDR.png, SD, plist, SD.png. You can also use the Texture Packer on the command line like this. The preceding command is to make a sprite sheet named hodge.plist and hodge.png by using images named foo_star.png. In addition, the command has other options as these: help, version, max size, format Cocos2d format, Data Sheet. You could see other options by using this command, Texture Packer, Help. In this video, we have learned to enhance our game features with Texture Packer. In the next video, we shall see how to use Tiled Map Editor to improve our game features. A tiled map is a grid of cells where the value in the cell indicates what should be at the location. Tiled maps are very useful, but they are pretty hard to create by hand. Tiled is a tool that can be used to just create tiled maps. Tiled is a free application. There are various kinds of tiled map. For example, 2D maps such as Dragon Quest, horizontal scrolling game map such as Super Mario, and so on. In this video, you could basically use Texture Packer. In this video, we are going to take a look at Tiled Map Editor. If you don't have Tiled Map Editor, you could download it from www.mapeditor.org. Let's go to the URL and type this web address. Click on Download Now, and then click on Go to Download Now. You have a few download options. As per your OS, click on the appropriate download button. Now you could see the Save option. Click on Save, and now your download starts. You need to wait until the download completes. And then, after downloading it, you will install the application and copy the example folder in the DMG file into the working space of your computer. We now have our Tile Map Editor DMG file downloaded, so let's open it. Go to the Downloads folder. You could see the tiledmap.dmg file. Double-click on it to install. Once you're done, open the file. Click on the T symbol and click on Open. So, this is how our Tiled Map Editor looks. Now, we will see how to create a tiled map file from scratch. Go to File, select New. You can now see a pop-up window for the new map. Set the orientation orthogonal. Tile layer format base 64 zlib compressed. And set the width to 100 tiles. Now, click on OK. Now you need to select the tile layer format and then select XML. Let's do it by selecting XML in tile layer format and changing width and height in map size to 50 tiles. Finally, click OK. So you could see the tiles windows on your screen. Now go to Map and select New Tiles in the menu. You will now see the tileset window on your screen. Choose the tileset image by clicking on Browse button in the middle of the window. Here, we select TMW Desert Spacing.png file, which is located in Tiled's example folder. This tile set has tiles with a width and height of 32 pixels, but we need to change the margin and spacing to 1 pixel. So, we right away go to these fields and make the changes and click OK. So, now you can see the new editor window on your screen. Next, let's try to paint the ground layer using the tile that you selected. Select the tile from the right-hand lower pans and select the bucket icon in the toolbar. Now, click on the map and you will see the ground painted with the same tile. Now let's see how we can arrange the tiles on the map. To do this, just move to the lower right pan. Select the tile which you want to put in your pane, and then select the stamp icon in the toolbar. Then click on the map. That's how you could put the tile on the map. Now, since you have finished arranging the map, you need to save it as a new file. Go to File and select Save As in the menu and save the new file that you made. To use Cocos2d-x, you have to add the TMX file and tileset image file into the Resources folder in your project. So, we go on to to add our desert.tmx and desertspacing.png in tileds example folder. From now on, we have to work in Xcode. So, let's go to our hello world init method and edit it. So, we go to our hello world scene.cpp file. Here we have already added hello world init method. You can also type and add this code to your file. The files that the tiled map needs are the tmx files. So, this is the tmx file. That is why we need to add these files into our project. We could see the tiled map object by using the tmx tiled map class. We have to specify the tmx tiled map path to the tmx tiled map creator. So, here we have given the name of the file path. The tmx tiled map object is a node. We could see the tmx tiled map only when we add the tmx tiled map object using the addChild method. Hence, we have used here the addChild method. Also, the tmx tile map anchors position with the setPosition method. Since our map is huge, we need to scroll and move. So, we try to move the map by scrolling it. Here, we touch the screen and scroll the map by the distance from the touching point to the center of the screen. To do this, we need to add the auto touch listener in the hello world init method. But remember, we need to define the auto touch listener method in the hello world scene.h file. So, we have defined the touch method and some properties in hello world scene.h as you are on your screen. Now let's go ahead and add the touch method in hello world scene.cpp. Finally, we need to add the update method in hello world scene.cpp. Once we are done with this, we are now ready to run this project and touch the screen. After building and running, you could see this on the screen. You could scroll up and down, right, left, and reach all the corners of your map. Isn't it amazing? In this video, we have learned how to use Tiled Map Editor to enhance some more features of our game. In the next video, we shall see to get the property of the object in the tiled map. In the previous video, we looked at how to use Tiled Map Editor. In this video, we shall learn one more feature to enhance our game features. There are 2 points which we are going to cover in this video. The first point is getting the tiles row-column position on the tiled map. The second point is getting the properties of the object on the tiled map. Now let's explain how to get the tiles row-column position on the tiled map. First, what we need to do is launch the tiled application and reopen the desert.tmx file. Let's go to download. Here is our tiled.dmg file. Double-click on it and now open T symbol for tile. Here is our tile launcher. Launcher opened. Now, we select 3 objects in the tile set window. And now, add a new property by clicking on the plus icon in the lower left corner in the properties window. We can now see a pop-up window on our screen specifying the property's name. Enter is tree. In the text area, after you name the new property, it will be shown in the properties list. However, you will find that its value is empty. So now, you have to set the new value to it. In this case, you need to set a true value, as you see on your screen. You have to just save it and update desert.tmx in your project. Let's go to our Xcode project, and then we move on to our hello world scene.cpp file. We now edit the hello world init method to show the tiled map and add the event listener for touching. Now, add the hello world getTilePosition method. You could get the tiles grid row column position if you called this method by specifying the touch position. Finally, you could get the properties of the object that you touch. Now, you need to add the hello world onTouchBegan method as you see in this code. Let's build and run this project. If you touch the tree to which you set the new isTree property, you could see it's tree in the log. Get the map size using the TMX tiled map get content size method. Now calculate the point on the map from the touching point and map position. Then get the tile size using the TMX tiled map : get tile size method. Get the row column of the tile in the map using the TMX tiled map get map size method. Get the magnification display using the original size called map content size, and real size calculated by the column's width and tile's width. The origin of coordinates for the tiles is located in the upper left corner. That's why the tile's row column position of the tile that you touched is calculated using the tile size, the row, and magnification display as shown in this code. TilePoint.x is the column position and TilePoint.y is row position. Now let's take a look at how to get the properties of the object on the tiled map. Get the row column position of the tile that you touched using the touching point. Get the layer called ground from the tiled map. There are the objects on this layer called ground. Get the tile GID from this layer using row column of the title. Finally, get the properties as value map from the map using the TMX tiled map get properties for JID method. Then get the isTree properties value from them as shown in here. In this video, we learned how we can get the property of the object we touched on the screen. In the next video, you will learn how to create a lot of shapes using Physics Editor. In the previous video, we learned how to get the properties of objects in Tiled Map Editor. In this video, we are going to take a look at the Physics Editor to form complex shapes. Physics Editor is a paid application, but you can use a free trial version. If you don't have it, let's go to Google Chrome and download. This is the link to download Physics Editor. Click on Download Physics Editor. Click on Save. Our Physics Editor is being downloaded. So, now we have the Physics Editor.dmg file with us. Let's go to our download folder and install it. Double-click on the Physics Editor.dmg file and click on Open. Now you could see the Physics Editor launcher on your screen. First of all, you will create a physics file to use Physics Editor. Launch Physics Editor. Here, we will use the gear image, which is saved as gear.png in our resource folder, and drag the image, gear.png, to the left pan. Click on the Shaper tracer icon, that is the third icon, from the left in the toolbar. So, the tracer window pops up on your screen. You could change the tolerance value. If the vertices value is too big, the renderer is slow. So, you set the suitable vertices value to change the tolerance value. Finally, click on the OK button. So, this is how your gear.gdm image looks like in Physics Editor. Now, we'll go to the exporter and select Cocos2d-x. In this tool, the anchor's point default value is set to 0, 0. In Cocos2d-x, the anchor point's default is 0.5f, 0.5f. So, we change the pixel value to 56 and 57, so our anchor point changes to center. Now, we go to download the Physics Editor loaders.zip file. Let's go to our download folder. First, we need to unzip the loaders.zip file. Now, go to Cocos2d-x folder. Copy both physics shapecache.cpp and physics shapecache.h file. Now, we place these files in the folder where a project is there. Now, let's add our file to Xcode project. Next, we will write code to create the physics bodies by using the physics editor data. Here, the gear object will appear at the touching point. Now you have to include the file physics-shapecache.h. Create a scene with the physics editor. So, create a wall of the same screen size in the scene and add the touching event listener. Then, load the physics editor's data. Make the gear objects perform when touching the screen with this code. After this, build and run this project. After touching the screen, the gear objects appear at the touching point. Firstly, you have to add two files, plist and image. Physics body is defined in the plist file that you published with Physics Editor. However, you use the gear image to create a sprite. Therefore, you have to add the plist file and gear.png into your project. Cocos2d-x cannot read Physics Editor's data. Therefore, you have to add the loader class that is provided in GitHub. To use the physics engine, you have to create a scene with Physics World, and you should set the debug draw mode to easy to better understand physics bodies. Without border or walls, the physics objects will drop out of the screen. So, you have to put up a wall that is the same size as the screen. Load the physics data's plist that was created by Physics Editor. The physics shape cache will load the plist at once. After that, the physics data is cached in the physics shape cache class. In the Hello World onTouchBegan method, create the gear object at the touching point. You could create physics body using the physics shape cache create body with name method with physics object data. In this video, we learned Physics Editor feature in Cocos2d-x to use different complex shapes. In the next video, we shall learn the method and usage of Glyph Designer. Hi, in the previous video, we learned how to use Physics Editor to obtain complex shapes in our game. In this video, we're going to take a look on how to use the bitmap font in Cocos2d-x. Glyph Designer is a paid application, but you can use a free trial version. If you don't have it, let's go to Google Chrome. This is the link to download Glyph Designer. Now, click on Download Demo. Click the Save button. So your Glyph Designer now has been downloaded. Now we have the Glyph Designer.zip file with us. After downloading it, you need to install it to your computer. So, now let's be quick to find the fonts, which suits our game design. So, we shall use the font called Arcade from thedefont.com. So, we click on the download button and save it to our computer. Since we have both these files now with us, let's move to the download folder. First, we need to unzip the glyphdesigner.zip file and then launch. Similarly, you need to unzip the arcade file. In the left pan, there are all the fonts that are installed on your computer. You could choose the font that you want to use in your game from here. Here, we will use the arcade font that you downloaded a short time ago. If you didn't install it yet, you could go to File and load it from here. Go to Downloads. Open the arcade folder and select the arcade file. So, now you could see the arcade interlaced font in the list. After selecting or loading the font, it displays in the center pan. If your game uses a part of the font, you have to hold the characters that you need to save memory and the application capacity. To select the characters, you can use the Include Glyphs window in the right pan. You need to scroll down to see this window in the right pan. You could change the size, color, and shadow in the font color option. And also, you could set a gradient. You can even create an original font. For this, you need to go to File, go to Export Settings, and click on Export. So, you have two files that have the extension .fnt and .png. Since these files are paired for use in the bitmap font, we need to copy these two files and go to our home directory where our project is placed. Go to Cocos2d, My Game, Resources. So here is the fonts folder, and we place these files here. Let's go to our Xcode project and write this code in the Hello World init method. This is the code which will enable to use your fonts in the Cocos2d-x. Now we are ready to run our project. So click on the Run button. This is how the bitmap font looks in Cocos2d-x when you want to make the monospaced font into a non-monospaced font. To do this, go to Preview icon on the top right. Here, we will add some numeric. Go to Texture Atlas. Check the power of 2. Now, go to Metrics and check the fixed width and change the value to 4. You can also change the colors and shades, and you could change the outline width as you want. In this section, we have learned to enhance many of our game features in Cocos2d-x using the Texture Packer, Tiled Map Editor, Physics Editor, and Glyph Designer. We can use lots of complex shapes, get the object properties, and adjust our fonts, and could do a lot more stuff. In the next section, we will explore taking advantages. In the previous section, we improved games with extra features. In this section, we will explore taking advantages. We'll look at using encrypted sprite sheets, using encrypted zip files, using encrypted SQLite files. After that, we'll see observer pattern. Finally, we'll talk about networking with HTTP. Let's get rolling with the first video using encrypted sprite sheets. In this video, you will learn how to encrypt your sprites to protect them from hackers and cheaters. It is pretty easy for a hacker to extract resource files from the application. This is a huge concern for copyright. Sprite sheets can be encrypted very easily using Texture Packer. To encrypt sprite sheets using Texture Packer, you need to add our sprites first. Then, click on the Content Protection icon, and you will see the additional window in which to set the password. Create new key, then save as global key. Take a note of this encryption key. This is the key you will need to decrypt the files that are encrypted. Finally, you could publish the encrypted sprite sheet. Name it as encrypted.plist. Then OK. Save the texture format as PVR plus zlib. Great! Now let's have a look at how to use these encrypted sprite sheets. Here are the two files. Add these encrypted sprite sheets to your project in the res folder. Include the zip-utils class in helloworld.cpp to decrypt. Set the encrypting key that is used for encryption by Texture Packer. So, this is our encrypted key. Finally, the sprite is created using the encrypted sprite sheet. Now, you need to copy the zip-utils.h file from the res folder to classes folder. Here, we can also see in Xcode like so. Let's run the project now. The application has a lot of sprite sheets normally. You can use each encryption key per sprite sheet, but this might create some confusion. You need to use the same key in all the sprite sheets in your application. The first time, you need to click on the Create New Key button to create the encryption key. Then, you need to click on the Save as Global Key button to save the encryption key as the global key. Next time, when you create a new encrypted sprite sheet, you could set this encryption key as a global key by clicking on the Use Global Key button. Now, we will move on to understanding how to check the encrypted sprite sheets. For that, go to our project. The encrypted sprite sheets extension is .ccz. 1. Double-click the encrypted file that has the CCZ extension. 2. Launch Texture Packer, and you will see the window where you need to enter the decryption key. 3. Enter the decryption key. Or click on the Use Global Key button. If you have saved the key as the global key, then click on the OK button. If the key is the correct key, you will see the sprite sheet as shown here. Nice! That's about it for this video. Here, we used encrypted sprite sheets. In the next video, we'll use encrypted zip files. Previously, we saw how to avoid spaghetti code. In this video, you will learn how to unzip an encrypted zip file with a password. In a smartphone, the game frequently downloads a zip file from the server to update resources. These assets are generally the main targets for hackers. They can decode these assets to manipulate information in a game system. Hence, security for these assets is very important. In this case, zip is encrypted to protect against cheaters. Cocos2d-x has an unzip library. However, encryption/decryption is disabled in this library. That's why we have to enable the crypt option in unzip.cpp. This file's path is cocos2d/external/unzip. unzip.cpp. This is the file. You will have to comment out these lines to enable the crypt option. Nice! Now, add this file to our project. Click on File, Add Files to My Game. Then, go to the directory where this file is placed and add it. First, include the unzip.h file to use the unzip library in helloworld.cpp as shown in the following code. Next, let's try to unzip the encrypted zip file with the password. This can be done by adding the following code in helloworld.cpp. Then, open helloworld.h and add this particular line. Finally, you can unzip the encrypted zip file to use this method by specifying the password. If the password is Cocos2d-x, you can unzip with the following code. Open the encrypted zip file using the unzOpen function as shown. After opening it with the unzOpen function, open it again using the unzOpen current file password function as shown here. After that, you can continue in the same way that is used to unzip an unencrypted zip file. Awesome! We saw how to use encrypted zip files. In the next video, we'll talk about using encrypted SQLite files. Previously, we saw encrypted zip files. In this video, you will learn how to encrypt your SQLite and prevent cheaters from editing it. We often use SQLite to save the user data or game data. SQLite is a powerful and useful database. However, there is a database file in your game sandbox. Cheaters will get it from your game, and they will edit it to cheat. We will use the WX SQLite library to encrypt SQLite. This is free software. Firstly, you need to install WX SQLite in Cocos2d-x and edit some code and set files. In Cocos2d-x, 1. Download the WX SQLite 3 project's zip file. Visit the URL sourceforge.net/projects. 2. Expand the zip file. 3. Create a new folder called WX SQLite under Cocos2d/external. 4. Copy SQLite 3 folder to Cocos2d/external/WXSQLite. As shown here, we need to add some files now. Open the SQLite 3/secure/src folder and add these two files, SQLite3.h and SQLite3secure.c. Open Build Settings of Xcode. Under Apple LLVM in Other C flags, add dsqlite _has_code C codec. Also for release, add this line. Create a new file called android.mk in Cocos2d/external/WXSQLite. Here's the code for it. Go to Cocos2d/cocos/storage/local-storage. Edit android.mk like so. Now, edit local storage.cpp. Comment out these lines. After this, SQLite is encrypted and can be used in your project. Edit android.mk in proj.android/jni as shown. You have to include SQLite 3.h to use SQLite APIs. Create the encrypted database as shown in the following code. Select the data from the encrypted database like so. Firstly, you have to create the encrypted database with the passphrase. To create it, follow these 3 steps. 1. Open the database normally. 2. Set the passphrase using the SQLite3_key function. 3. Finally, execute SQL to create tables. After this, you will need the encrypted database file in the application. You could get that from the path that was printed by cclog. To select data from there, the same method is used. You could get data from the encrypted database using the same passphrase. Awesome! Well, there's more. You must be wondering whether this database was really encrypted. So, let's check it. Open the database using the command line and executing the command as shown. If the database is encrypted, you will not be able to open it, and an error message will pop up as shown. File is encrypted or is not a database. Well, that's about it for this video. We successfully used encrypted SQLite files. In the next video, we'll create observer pattern. In the previous video, we saw encrypted SQLite files. This video deals with creating observer pattern. In this video, you will learn how to use Event Dispatcher and how to create observer pattern in Cocos2d-x. Event Dispatcher is a mechanism for responding to events such as touching screen, keyboard events, and custom events. You could get an event using Event Dispatcher. In addition, you could create observer pattern in the design patterns using it. Firstly, we will go through the details of observer pattern. Observer pattern is a design pattern. When an event occurs, observer notifies the event about the subjects that are registered in observer. It is mainly used to implement distributed event handling. Observer pattern is also a key part in the MVC architecture. Click on Classes and add a new header file called count.h. We will create a countup label per second in this video. When touching a screen, countup labels are created in this position and then countup per second using observer pattern. Create count class that is extended label class. And then create another .cpp file where you add this code. Here, add the custom event called time count. Time count event occurred. Then the count, count up method is called. Don't forget that you need to remove the custom event from Event Dispatcher when the instance of the count class is removed. If you forget to do that, then the zombie instance will be called from Event Dispatcher when the event occurs, and your game will crash. Next, let's open helloworld.cpp, include count.h, and add this code. These errors are here because the code hasn't been compiled. They will be resolved when the code is done compiling. Here, when touching a screen, this label will be created at the touching position and will call the hello world count up method per second using a scheduler. The hello world count up method calls the custom event called timeout. Then create another hello world.h where you add this code. And then Event Dispatcher will notify this event to the listed subjects. In this case, the count up method is called. After building and running this project, when you touch the screen, it will create a countup label at the touching position, and then you will see that the labels are counting up per second at the same time. Using Event Dispatcher, labels count up at the same time. If you use Scheduler instead of Event Dispatcher, you will notice something different. Change the count init method as shown in the following code. In this code, use a scheduler by calling the count up method per second. You can see that the labels are not counting up at the same time in this way. Each label is counting up per second, however, not at the same time. Using observer pattern, a lot of subjects can be called at the same time. Awesome! In the next video, we'll see how to use networking with HTTP. Previously, we created observer patterns. This video deals with networking with HTTP. In this video, you will learn how to use networking to download resources. In recent smartphone games, we normally use an internet network to update data, download resources, and so on. There aren't any games developed without networking. you have to include the header file of network/HTTP client to use networking. If you run it on Android devices, you need to edit proj.android/Android manifest.xml. In this code, we will get the response from http://google.com/ and then print the response data as a log. Firstly, create an HTTP request instance. The HTTP request class does not have a create method. That's why you use new for creating the instance. Specify URL and then end the request type. In this case, set http://google.com/ as a request URL and set get as a request type. Set callback function. To receive the data from the server, you could check its success using the HTTP response : is succeed method. And then you could get the response data using the HTTP response : get response data method. You could request networking by calling the HTTP client : send method, specifying the instance of the HTTP request class. If you are getting a response via the network, then call the callback function as mentioned in step 3. Finally, you have to release the instance of HTTP request. That's why you created it, by using new. In this video, you will learn how you could get resources from the network using the HTTP request class. In the following code, get the Google log from the network and display it. You could see the following window. After building and running this code, you have to save the original data in the sandbox. You could get the path of the sandbox using the file utils : get writable path method. Well, that's about it for this video. We've discussed networking with HTTP. That brings us to the end of this section. We saw how to use encrypted sprite sheets, then encrypted zip files. After that, we saw encrypted SQLite files. Finally, we discussed observer patterns and networking with HTTP. This also marks the end of this course. We aimed to provide you with a detailed guide to create 2D games with Cocos2d-x from scratch. I'm confident that you have learned everything from the fundamental stage all the way up to an advanced level. And now you could successfully create games with Cocos2d-x. Good luck with building games.